All right. Well, I'm going to do the intro because someone apparently unplugged their microphone. One and all, welcome back to EGC Masters Winters. It's time for the second series of the day. Team Liquid's DeMu, an English boy on an English Civ. He's going up against MeomaikA, a growing threat from the East, possibly Vietnam's best representation you are going to see in AoE4 in the upcoming months, kicking off on a cozy pick for him. It's Japanese.
Hello? Okay,
Hello.
now we're good. Anyway, back we are in the Group C of EGC Masters Winter, and KP, this is a super stacked group here. We have Louis MT in the first place, having secured that playoff spot, and Beastie is going to be playing a decider tomorrow against the winner of this series. So this is definitely one of the more challenging groups to qualify to the playoffs from.
Yeah, and it's an interesting matchup because MeomaikA, he's been playing in the midweek Masters for a few weeks now, right? And I've been impressed, man. He's been taking top games off of some of the best, right? He's very creative. I think he's taking games off of people like Puppy Paw, even DeMu, right? So I wouldn't write this guy off. A lot of people probably not familiar with him are coming in and saying, oh, 3-0. But, you know, this is, I think, one of the most accomplished guys from Vietnam in StarCraft. And he has been rising through the ranks. MeomaikA's goal by the end of this tournament is to transcend from being a 2 or 3 trick pony into being a robust player. Because the only thing that I think is wholly holding him back at the moment is he tends to lean towards a few picks. If you see a MeomaikA draft, you can identify it without seeing a name. Because all you have to do is look for Jean, Mongols, Juji, and Japanese.
Going to be a Kura Storehouse opening here on Himayama. On the other side, DeMu just going for the standard council hall setup. This is an interesting Kura Storehouse spot, though. I just want to, go back to the previous series that we've just finished. In that series, the Kura Storehouse was placed such that you had all the farm spots open right next to it. This is the direct opposite. You actually block a lot of the farm spots. So this is actually more of a Kura Storehouse that's going to give you an initial decent influx of wood alongside a couple of farms, but you're not actually maxing out the amount of farms that you're getting out of it.
Okay, so this is interesting from MeomaikA. Just one on the Kura Storehouse. He's not fast castling by the looks of it. Like, it almost looks like he's macroing for Pro Scouts, which is dangerous because DeMu is doing a council hall build. English do have an ability to block Pro Scouts play, especially on a map like Himayama, where the wood lines are really thin. It's why he's put the Kura Storehouse like this, because Lombos can easily reach you. So I'm kind of praying MeomaikA isn't thinking Pro Scouts here. I've seen this matchup with different civs trying to do Pro Scouts like 2 or 3 times already. And the English Council Hall build can actually be a really big ball buster.
Yeah, I guess the argument for the Pro Scouts here is that the map is very open. So being able to ferry in carcasses consistently and just having a safe source of food is pretty good in value. But he's keeping so many villagers on gold. This really does feel like a Pro Scouts build here.
Yeah, it's a funky order, though, because of the timing, right? Like, that's the thing that I'm kind of scratching my head on is why would you tick up with 1? Like, my only thought is it's not Pro Scouts, but actually Castle. That would at least make sense. But it is definitely a funky order. Like, this kind of reminds me, if you remember, HRE was doing this for a while with the Minework Burgrave build, where you'd use 1 on Minework and just fast Castle, and then you had a really optimal timing for Burgrave. It's a bit funky, though. I mean, he's got the outpost coming up. That's going to stop the Lombo pressure. I think the thought process for MeomaikA is, like, realistically, while the outpost will slow DeMu reaching, he should still breach. So if you just rush gold like this, when you do tech up, you're going to at least have a few 100 G in the pocket to work with.
First longbows getting across the map here. Tower nicely in front of the gold mine. Love this preemptive tower here from MeomaikA. You really feel like without it, your gold access would be just so precarious. The backup gold mine here for MeomaikA is also horrendously positioned. It's actually all the way to the front, almost next to that lake.
Yeah, food as well. Like, look at the state of the berries. There's nothing safe behind him here. So, like, what was the sheep count? Because that's actually really important if MeomaikA is just fast castling. Like, if he's naked with, say, 8 sheep, he's dead, right?
It's lovely positioning by DeMu on this longbowman.
Okay, 13 sheep.
Finding that one angle.
He'll be fine. 13 sheep plus the Kura should mean that he's fine. But this, yeah, like you said, this Lombo is already breached in the right location. He's already shuffling around to where the farms are going to spawn as well. This is a little bit problematic for Meo. I thought maybe he'd try for the Yumi build. This was a popular play. Japanese versus English is Horseman into Yumi. because the whole idea is you have better mobility, right? So you just cut reinforcements so you can then fight the premium afterwards.
The Spearman, lovely positioning by DeMu. It's also set on stand ground, so that Spearman won't accidentally run into the town center fire out there. This one Longbowman is a little exposed, but the problem for MeomaikA, I feel, is that right now he's being harassed a lot, and when you don't have very many villagers, even just a little idle time is something that's going to have a big impact on your eco, and you're actually making very expensive units. Horsemen are expensive for a fragile eco like this.
I think the big problem here is MeomaikA wanted his cake and he wanted to eat it, right? So what he done here, that outpost was him budgeting his way to castle. But the problem is against Lombos, it doesn't work very well because the Lombos can hit from either side. So typically against English is one of those civs, same with Byzantines. We have to just build an outpost on each side of the gold vein and then you're safe. So you can see him stockpiling, and now instead he has to return for 2 horsemen. So he's kind of struck off of his timing. This feels a little bit suboptimal because what you've done is reluctantly reacted to the play at a point now where DeMu's further ahead than where he would have been if you just dealt with it straight away. I'm wondering, DeMu... Yeah, we have got reinforcements being intercepted here. Actually, a really good micro from MeomaikA. This is something you're going to notice from this guy through the series. Like, this is the thing. This series I expect to be pretty intense on micro. Both of these players, high APMs, and both of them with a prolific StarCraft background.
Oh, certainly. Like, you're going to see a lot of, StarCraft-esque moves in this series, both of them coming from StarCraft, but especially MeomaikA. Like, DeMu has been off of StarCraft for quite a while. MeomaikA actually transitioned a lot later than DeMu did. There's the floating gate coming out, no surprise on that front, so it's just going to be your classic mounted samurai play, but you will be up against quite a few spearmen here. And DeMu has been doing a pretty good job challenging a lot of these resources. In particular, if you can hit this gold mine, MeomaikA is going to get the cost, and he won't have the gold to actually get any mounted samurai going.
Now, MeomaikA is already behind by 3 villages as well. Remember that previous dive paid off because of the chip damage. This is cool, though. MeomaikA knows that, like, English can't rotate to the back. It's too risky, especially now that he's revealed he could have horsemen. So the floating gate will be safe. But as you're highlighting with the gold, that's the thing I'm worried about. I thought DeMu might try to sidestep into siege engineering here. Hasn't bothered at all. Looks like he might actually start to stockpile for his own castle play. And villagers... maybe a little bit slow on the pull away there. Luckily, he shifted in the last microsecond before the Lombos would A-clicked in. We'll be at a garrison side, and fortifications are there, so this is kind of a wasted effort. DeMu's going to try to make it worthwhile, but there's no way this outpost is going down.
Yeah, it's not going to go down, and critically, MeomaikA was able to secure the gold he needs to get the first couple of mounted samurais going. If that doesn't happen, it is game over right here. But because he was able to get a decent bank of food and gold upon hitting Castle Age, he is going to be able to get those initial mounted samurai going. It's still going to be tricky fighting up against 6 spearmen, so it's going to be more about intercepting reinforcements initially, I feel. The concern for MeomaikA is that it's one thing that you get to Castle, it's one thing that you get the mounted samurai going, but you cannot concede a dozen villagers to make this happen. He's down by 5 villagers, essentially. That's quite a price to pay for, the first couple of mounted samurai.
Yeah, it deaccelerates the ramping timing, right? It's like he has 1 or 2 mounted samurai out, but he doesn't have enough to poke at the main army while also raiding. So the problem now is like MeomaikA is going to have to just try to raid on the other side and risk losing villagers at home instead of being able to sort of pseudo-block both plays. In fact, we do see that rotation around the back. DeMu, we have God vision, right? So if anyone's looking at this going, why is he making this play? You have a look at his vision on the map. It's pretty obvious why he's making this play. He lost his scout, so he's riding blind. Without that scout, he just has the vision on Lombos, and you can't split these Lombo groups up to look at everything, right? It's way too risky. That being said, that one Lombo actually has found the first relic grab on the north side.
I don't know if you actually want to do relic grabs over here, or at least deny relics. Nice little raid here coming in from MeomaikA. He needs to leverage this mobility. He cannot really challenge that many spearmen out on the field, so he's just going to try to punish his opponent right here with the mounted samurai. It's going to be a little bit more challenging, though, doing that against an English base and with the spearmen being buffed by the network of castles as well.
This Lombo is actually going to get the kill. I mean, that is high value right there. Yeah, it looks like MeomaikA did actually rally a knight to the north side, but he didn't actually micro it through. He was too distracted with this dive underneath the TC. Actually, is that the scout? All right, yeah, that makes sense. This guy's going to do nothing for you.
It's getting concerning for MeomaikA. He's down by 4 eco. He hasn't collected a single relic just yet. He actually has most of his mounted samurai pretty badly beaten up after that raid into the enemy base. He's up to 7 mounted samurais. He's getting close to cleaning this. But at the same time, DeMu is getting close to going into castle.
Yeah, but the gold getting idle is slowing down MeomaikA's own scaling. He's going to have to react to this army soon. He's close to having enough knights. He should be able to kind of brute force this, but by doing so, as you mentioned, DeMu is going to get his castle age pretty much from no pressure into his base. Spearman, get the initial pinch. That's good micro. Focus fires down the one mounted samurai. Now the Lombos are going to bypass onto the villages. So Snipe's coming in. He splits it. He could get 2 kills, but unfortunately, I think that's Textiles is kind of stripping him of the opportunity right there. It will just run through, finds additionals. No Textiles. Okay, yeah, he just didn't have enough Lombos. He might be able to snipe 1 or 2, but unfortunately, the mounted samurai saved 2 additional workers there. It's still a 7-worker lead. DeMu is actually yet to start his actual tech up here.
Yeah, this is the window that MeomaikA has been waiting for. This whole game was about him tanking up that aggression and then just saying, okay, now I'm ready to fight. He needs to make something happen with these mounted samurai. If he doesn't, DeMu's going to get to castle and he's going to have so much better of an eco. He could actually think about going up with the second town center landmark just so that he can progressively build an eco lead. And indeed, King's Pass is going to be the landmark of choice. But right now, DeMu doesn't have a lot back at home to defend. He's got quite a few spears, and some of these mounted samurai are badly beaten up, though. Looks like it is going to be enough to hold them at bay for the time being. And I just want to go back to that final engagement we had inside MeomaikA's base for a second. DeMu didn't focus the mounted samurai, he focused vills, and he also picked off another Shinto priest. So there aren't very many Shinto priests out there for MeomaikA. He lost 2 in total, and he hasn't yet collected a single relic.
No, Shinto for nothing right now. It's looking pretty much a word that would be a few letters removed from that one. MeomaikA really needs that accelerant because now that DeMu has reached the next stage, he's maybe considering adding in a monastery straight away. I've seen it sometimes from English players in this position because the attack speed spears is good enough to keep your opponent away. First prior should definitely be veterancy. After that, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if DeMu just goes monastery and rushes the south side relics.
Yeah, I wonder what's next for DeMu, though. Like, what's the composition that he's going to head towards? That is a weird thing to consider on a wide open map for English. Normally,
now, hold up. We have an interesting switch from MeomaikA, though. This has been a growing build, Ledicor. Mount Samurai into Yuumi.
If MeomaikA goes Yuumi, I'm actually happy with the Knights for DeMu.
Yeah, but, like, you don't do Knights is the thing. Right? Like, DeMu's making the right choice. Crossbows is his best option here. You can't do Knights because Knights are just worse version of Mount Samurai. It's just factual, right? Like, with the deflective armor, with the extra melee techs, Abandonment eventually, like, you'll lose that engagement every day of the week. Add in the fact that although your opponent went Yuumi, he could switch this into Onimusha like that. DeMu's only option is to hunker down. So, all of a sudden, the race for relics could favor MeomaikA because with DeMu going crossbow spears, I don't think he's going to be rushing out the base anymore.
Yeah, that's the big problem here in general for the English. You have a juggernaut economy, and when you play English on wide open maps, usually you leverage that food eco from the farming and you play heavily into knights, so you have mobility. But as you said, you cannot really do this against mounted samurai, especially if MeomaikA keeps adding mounted samurai. Now, if he, for whatever reason, stops and goes very heavy into Yuumi, that's an opportunity for DeMu. But for the time being, it's just mounted samurai running circles around the enemy base, looking for opportunities. It's kind of a diversion in a way to just secure the relics. It's still 0 relics technically for MeomaikA, but he brought 2 close to his base. So it's more about him just making sure that he gets them close to his base first, and then he's going to garrison them all. This is a very heavy Yuumi switch here. Looks like MeomaikA is going to continue adding mounted samurai, though. I'm starting to like this composition a lot for him. And if you're MeomaikA, you're probably just sitting back, gathering the relics, securing map control, and just waiting for DeMu to break out of his base.
I mean, DeMu isn't going to rush, though, right? This is classic English now, where it's just like hunker down. Just carry on, as we like to say. Spears are going to try to wrap around the back. Nice little grab there. Should be able to get 1, almost 2 kills. But the Yuumi transition is coming right in force. DeMu needs to scale the crossbow count further. The good news is, if he wants to, if you look at his spawn, it's actually really good for defensive play. He essentially can wall in 3 gold veins with his start.
Yeah, the DeMu is so heavy on spearmen, and now one thing to highlight here is that a lot of these mounted samurai are super heavily damaged. So, sure enough, you have 9 mounted samurai from MeomaikA, but those could evaporate in an instant. I don't like this move for DeMu, though. It feels a little desperate, like moving out with this small army, mostly just spears. Part of this might be the fact that he lost his scout and he's got no idea about the Yuumi yet.
Monster is coming in now. And the Yuumi are going to reveal. So MeomaikA catches him trying to be greedy. The crossbow count isn't that big and not ideal against the Yuumi. The Mountain Samurai are going to be able to dive in here. The Yuumi can easily just cull the injured targets. Instead, he's going to focus fire down the spears. This is going to give him access. MeomaikA may be able to force DeMu to go full idle at this rate. It's 17 spearmen, but with this many Yuumi, and they're all in the wrong location, he's going to try to trade. But against rapid moving archers and heavy cavalry, surely this is nowhere near as good for him.
There's no way. DeMu has just spearmen inside the enemy base against the Japanese TC. Look at the other side. DeMu didn't lose a gazillion villagers here, but
he's not even moving. Look, are you watching these villagers?
He's got 30 idols.
Yeah, they're just standing there. They're like, okay, there's no room. They're doing the classic English thing. Let's just politely queue up and wait, right? So at this stage, DeMu has well over half his eco not working. MeomaikA is kind of mirrored the same way. But at the tail end of the fight, like, who's left with more here? DeMu's entire army is evaporated. MeomaikA still has 7 mounted samurai and a group of Yuumi to rotate with.
Exactly. DeMu sacrificed everything he had for that counterattack and got minimal returns. Granted, he is up by 12 eco still, partly thanks to that King's Palace. But at the same time, a lot of his villagers are badly beaten up, and as long as these mounted samurai stay active and stay alive, I think MeomaikA's position is just so much better. He's down in eco, but he can make up for that with the relics, and he just needs to continuously apply pressure to DeMu and force a lot of idle time.
I get the idea from DeMu, you know, like, to kind of look at it from his POV. If this wasn't the dive point, if MeomaikA was at home with the next wave, maybe it looks a lot better, right? But it was just the timing was perfect. Meo didn't even skip a beat on that, and all of a sudden it kind of feels like he's in the driving seat. Now, admittedly, it's still a 10-worker lead. DeMu does still have 2 TC versus 1. But now he lacks an army to really hold with. And on top of that, you mentioned the relics coming home. Like, look at the state of things. I think we're staring down the barrel of a 5-relic Japanese game with the current positions of the players.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. And let's not forget, like, DeMu had so much idle time on his eco in the last few minutes. So sure enough, he had that eco lead, but half of his eco was idled. And if this batch of Yuumi can once again put pressure on this eco, you're not going to see the effects of that 9-worker lead, because those 9 workers will be garrisoned inside the TC. And now with the farms being exposed all the way at the back, gold miners have to flee, the farmers at the back have to flee, and many of these villagers have been beaten up in previous engagements.
Even if they weren't, the Yuumi can easily snipe them down. The craziest part about this play, Lidicor, is for the second time the Yuumi are just sticking to him, but they're sticking it to him with plastic arrows. Those are feudal Yuumi.
Oh no. Remember, like, MeomaikA cannot afford to just keep grinding units against these defenses though, because eventually that lack of villager count is going to catch up to him.
I mean, you say that lack of villager count, but look at what he just killed.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say that, right? Like,
this is crazy. I think if MeomaikA had veterancy, that would have been GG right there. Like, it's the only thing that's missing for him, and I think it's because he doesn't realize.
At the end of the day, he cannot sustain grinding units against those defenses unless he gets villager kills, and that is exactly what he was able to get. He has gotten a lot of villager kills, and DeMu doesn't have a magnificent resource bank. It's not just the vill kills, it's also the idle time. Behind this, you're going to have a 4-to-1 split of relics, and DeMu's actually moving out mid-map, leaves his slow-moving army very exposed. MeomaikA still has 6 mounted samurai somewhere looking for a raid.
This is bad, though, because the spearmen are about to die before the veterancy comes in, so DeMu's going to think this is a good fight. Yeah, it just triggered. Like, this is now a bad fight. If he turns around, MeomaikA can win this engagement. So DeMu's lucky he actually isn't chasing instead. The Mount Samurai diving. And you know, the crazy thing is, like, why did he get away with feudal Yuumi so much there? It's because you just use them to bypass. They're so fast moving. The other interesting thing is when you dive with a huge trash heap of feudal Yuumi, their health pool is so small that TCs, crossbowmen, they're all going to overkill, right? There's just too many entities to kill. It's kind of like the opposite of, like, if a gilded archer in age behind goes in, yeah, I'll just focus fire him down. It's worth 100%. Yuumi is just all about the swarm. Which is fitting because MeomaikA, I'm pretty sure, was a Zerg player.
And now the slow-moving English army is getting caught off guard here. That is one of the big weaknesses of English on open maps like this. Their composition is slow-moving. If they get caught in the middle of the map, there's just no way back. And I do want to highlight, DeMu lost that scout early on, and he hasn't remade it. He was basically in the blind with this force, and he gets cleaned up as a consequence.
This is like a poor man's H recomp because the marching drills type effect, right? That just mopped the entire core of DeMu's army. He has got Lombo scaling behind. In theory, the answer, but in reality, like these Yuumi just get on top of you too fast. And also with Men-at-Arms switch coming in, you know, if MeomaikA even scouts this for a second, all he has to do is now double down again on Mounted Samurai, which should be doable with the amount of farms he's added in.
It's now almost a 3-1 lead here for MeomaikA. This is looking really grim for DeMu here. He's got so few longbows, and sure, he's got a couple of men-at-arms, but actually most of his army is going to be to the north. Archers, Yuumi can just dive to south.
Oh, it's happening for the 3rd time in a row. DeMu never done the full complete wall in, which actually would have saved him against Mass Yuumi. But this might just kill him. These ones are vetted up, and they are going nowhere in a rush. He's on the farms. And DeMu, it's not just be the farms. Both gold veins are a little bit tight together here. Yes. Great if you can defend. Terrible if these Yuumi Japanese archers get here so easily.
It's going to be a cleanup. 2 groups of Yuumi now splitting up, and this group hitting the gold mine. That might be the final nail in the coffin. DeMu is just pinned inside his base, and there's just nowhere for him to go. It's not just the villager kills, it's also the idle time. Even if he cleans this up, there's going to be another layer behind this for MeomaikA, and it's never a good sign when you're neck and neck on villager count, despite you having a second DC and your opponent not.
I mean, the easy way to put it is never a good sign when you've lost 18 more workers. That's really the simple way of looking at this. This has been absolute annihilation and still continuous idle time, while MeomaikA is Bing chilling, right? There's been 0 pressure onto his side of the map in the last few minutes. As much as DeMu desperately wants to try, and it really is just mobility, man. Like, you know, I think this is the year, and I can't believe I'm saying this is the year where we discovered mobility is OP. It felt like that was last year. We're just kind of taking it to a new extreme in 2025.
It certainly feels that way. Especially on an open map like this. If you can leverage that mobility, you can just stretch out the defenses of your opponent, take out their eco, and eventually grind them down. Now, granted, DeMu did a really good job just cleaning up this force behind his base, and now the army count is neck and neck. But at the same time, now MeomaikA is at the very least back in this game, and now he's making a pivot back into cavalry. Mounted Samurai are once again on the menu. Horsemen are also coming in. And that's going to be a great composition against men-at-arms.
The Horsemen aren't. The Horseman's kind of a peculiar choice by MeomaikA. He doesn't actually
I think he's just lacking gold. I think it's just like, okay, I want to switch to cav, but I can't go full Mounted Samurai.
I really hope that's the case, because like the comp here should be Mounted Samurai Yuumi still. Like, nothing at its core has necessarily changed. The men-at-arms will deal with the Yuumi better, sure, but the Mounted Samurai should dominate. The other choice for MeomaikA would have actually been Yuumi Samurai. But then he loses that mobility, right? The reason he's taking a dump on DeMu so far is because DeMu can never catch up to him, right? Like, to fit the player, this is the old man with a walking stick comp. You know, the best movement speed you can do is 1.12. Meanwhile, the low point of MeomaikA's movement speed is 1.36.
Mounted Samurai once again looking for a raid here. DeMu did a really good job just getting the walls up to the south and the north, but this middle area is still a little open, and it allows MeomaikA to kind of play around with these run-bys. DeMu now looking for a counter-attack, though. He is not going to have the Network of Castles buff, but I think he feels that he needs to make something happen here. Once again, he has a slow-moving army. If he feels like this fight is not for him, he has no chance of escaping.
No, and I'm getting this weird feeling that this fight is not for him. Are you seeing that from the north side? It's monsters riding over the hill. Mounted Samurai come in. And there's actually not that many men-at-arms here. I think he's got about half of them at home. So this is going to be a swarm over. DeMu's going to be shoved back in the hole, but not with much of a standing army at this rate.
Yeah, this is a cleanup, and it's just not looking good at this point for DeMu. He's trying to make a pivot into Spearman, but it's just not going to cut it against Mass Yuumi and Mounted Samurai. Though a lot of these Mounted Samurai are heavily beaten up here. The Bannerman goes down. Still, momentum is just shrinking continuously here for DeMu. Remember, he's down 2 sacred sites, he's down 4 relics, and he's taking underwhelming engagements, to say the least.
This is just ridiculous. There's just so many Yuumi this time that MeomaikA can be like the Scooby-Doo gang. Just split up and look for clues, right? There's enough farms to spread out upon. Like, all you need to do is leave half chasing and half going across. But instead, let's go strong arm in the engagement. A little bit of an ambitious choice considering there are some more men-at-arms coming out. So MeomaikA kind of missing a trick to get more economical damage done. as you mentioned, he's got that sacred timer ticking. I think MeomaikA is a believer in dropping a Yorishiro in the TC. So the scaling lead won't be as quick for DeMu because that means that MeomaikA is producing villages every 15 seconds.
Some Onomusha are also coming in for some armor-piercing power. He won't really last long against all these longbows, but
No.
again, MeomaikA's got a 2-to-1 lead in terms of troops. And the resource income is just looking so much better. The food is kind of neck and neck, but gold is much, much better here for MeomaikA.
Oh, please don't do it again. He's like, okay, I need to get out. This is MeomaikA just threw away everything. This is it. Oh, scrub. He doesn't got any more mad summer. I can take him. No, there's 14 more. They're coming again. I'm sorry. Did someone hit the instant replay? I feel like I've seen this fight before.
Boy, oh boy, it's the same thing over and over again. It's a complete cleanup. And this time around, a lot of those mounted samurai are fresh and new. They were full HP. DeMu knows that too. He's going to tap out of this one. And MeomaikA secures game number 1 in a series which will eliminate one of these two players.
This boy has been cooking. I mean, MeomaikA, like I said, Japanese usually really are the ones he's most scary on. I know he likes his Mongols and Jean, but for me, it's Japanese and Juji that he's been impressing with. You saw exactly why with Japan here. We'll have to see if he can actually extend this deeper in the draft. I'd still favor DeMu realistically from drafting and executing experience with a wider civ pool. But MeomaikA has given a stark reminder of when he's given his comfortable civs, he can make you extremely uncomfortable.
And this game looked pretty promising for DeMu going into late feudal. He picked off a bunch of villagers. He picked off a bunch of Shinto monks, as we're seeing right now. This raid in particular, despite the fact that he got cleaned up, he actually inflicted a lot of damage on his opponent. He was successful in delaying the income of relics. He was able to hit the eco and clean up a bunch of villagers, slow down that buildup of mounted samurai. But then things started falling apart, partly because MeomaikA did a really good job with those mounted samurai, just chipping away at the eco. And at the same time, throughout this game, you felt like DeMu just sent over his army, and they got cleaned up without any tangible results given to DeMu.
Yeah, it just felt like he was in a never-ending cycle of death, right? I think in hindsight, DeMu looking back at that game, his thoughts would probably be maybe I should have walls the center after the initial problems. But you know what? Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on game number 2. Because MeomaikA actually just got another good matchup. Deli versus Roos. DeMu could be on the verge of being in a very upsetting situation. Let's see if MeomaikA has spread his wings wide when it comes to the civ pool and can execute the Deli flawlessly.
Boy, oh boy, Dry Arabia, a classic one. This time around, it's an interesting spawn, and I don't know, like, previous game, we talked about how unfortunate MeomaikA's gold spawns were. This time around, you have to say that for DeMu. He's got his 2 primary gold mines to the front. Luckily for him, he's got a really nice gold spawn all the way to the north in that little pocket. Hunts could also be secured with some walls on the left side, but this is a very unbalanced map spawn for DeMu specifically. Not in terms of comparing the 2 players, it's about left side versus right side. The left side is super well defendable. The right side is extremely open for DeMu.
Well, let me explain why this is a fantastic spawn then for DeMu. Political, he's playing Roos. Who needs to touch a gold vein? Okay, like, you know,
Fair.
When you play Roos, in the first 20 minutes of play, you touch the gold vein about as much as I actually touch grass. You don't, right? I've actually seen it so frequently. 17 to 21 minutes in the game on average, Roos don't even tap that vein. It's ludicrous what they can do with a double hunting cabin, bounty openings with Golden Gate. They can just swiftly get fast castles. So, you know, this matchup, usually the way it's meant to go is if Deli go flawlessly into aggression with Spearman opening into Ghazi follow-up, they can catch you as you're going pro scouts and ruin you. Just absolutely destroy the plan. But that's usually with 4 deer spawns. If there was a spawn that gave me confidence for Roos, it's one where both of their deer are slap bang on top of each other behind your base. DeMu could actually make this one work.
It's an interesting setup here, that's for sure. One thing, again, just look at MeomaikA's base here for a little. He actually has a very well defensible base here. It's not like he needs it. He's not the kind of player that's going to just sit back and wall. But both of these players have the option to play a little slower, I feel. I guess the caveat here is that MeomaikA is going to play up-tempo simply because he wants to go for those sacred sites. And the 2 sacred sites that are closest to him are actually rather close to one another. So there is that one sacred site to the far left that might actually get neglected for a while. But if MeomaikA just focuses on those two sacred sites in the middle of the map, he's going to be able to always have some forces nearby, because that's kind of where the action is going to be happening anyways.
Yeah, and like MeomaikA's goal here for victory, you need to flawlessly rush sacred sites, right? So spin opening makes sense, Gazi still makes a lot of sense. You just get all 3 sacred sites, and then you try to get castle as quickly as possible. Probably go up to like 10 to 15 spears if the circumstance allows for it. That's going to come down to whether he scouts and gets on top of those double deer stacks straight away. If the first 5 spears reach that point, you can stranglehold your opponent, right? You want to keep some spears in reserve for your side. You pretty much can stop doing the getting food. Sheep count looked like it favored Meo as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, if we do a quick check, this is kind of important because usually in this matchup, you don't get the full amount of deer like Roos normally would. Okay, so yeah, 14. He is actually gathering from sheep, which is kind of weird for Deli. And there we go, 11. So, interestingly close. I have been seeing a little bit of deviation in fort. Some players go double scout, some go triple scout before feudal age. The thing I like about triple scout is it delays your tech timing, but what it does, if you're paying attention, you can focus on scouting the enemy scout, and then your second scout cuts them off ahead, and the third scout sweeps the other side of the map. So what you end up doing with free scout play is starving your opponent of sheep instead.
Yeah, it's always an option, although when it comes to sheep, obviously some of these civilizations are less reliant on it. I always do like to highlight the fact that sheep is always a great fallback option. So if you have the means to take it away from your opponent, it's a nice little extra. But nevertheless, for now, we are heading into feudal age here. Pro scouts on the menu for DeMu. No surprise on that side. Whereas for MeomaikA, he's just going for the classic scholar build here. So really as standard as it gets when it comes to feudal age openings.
Yeah, Meo, I hope he knows how important pressure is in this one. Like, because I've said about the recipe for success, right? Because it is pro scouts, should definitely be fast castle. I've seen players open Gazi first here and lose to Roos. It's really weird, but it's about the presence on those deer straight away, right? It's like if you go spear, you can actually just stop them. If you go Gazi, they kind of don't care, right? Because like, how many Gazi would you need to stop a scout realistically, right? 5 or 6? You might actually need 8 to just pinch this close to base. And we already have a pretty defendable base, right? We've got Wooden Fortress up. We've got nice funnel points. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to dive this if he gets to that hunting cabin.
Yeah, this is looking like a very defensible base here for DeMu.
That was kind of interesting as well, actually. I don't think DeMu tried to shove the deer at all. Because, like, normally what you can do here, when you get a type of spawn like this, you can just start pushing those first deer close to base. So your initial drop-off is just so rapid, you just then follow up and get all the food safe. But it is going to be Gazi for MeomaikA. Peculiar. We do also have Deli prioritizing the Bloomery Blacksmiths. You're looking for a really clean timing here, Lidicore. Like, you know, as soon as Sanctity is down to about like 20 seconds, you want to be able to pump out 3 scholars to each sacred site. Because at least one of the benefits you get of being up against Roos doing this is they aren't going to contest you, right? Realistically, these scouts have one job and one job only.
It's exactly just like that. Big info here coming in from MeomaikA. He sees that DeMu is moving on to the stone, so he knows everything that he needs to. It's a pro scouts build. He also sees that DeMu is prioritizing the carcasses close to his base, and as you said, he's got the Gazi Raiders out there. He's going to have the scholars out there, so he's going to try and contest all 3 of those sacred sites. At the same time, I think the question becomes, what's next for MeomaikA? Because for the time being, he's going to be the aggressor. This is actually a nice low angle to torch that hunting cabin down from. And with all these Gazi Raiders around, he's going to try and at least contest these deer carcasses. For now, DeMu doesn't seem to care. He's just bringing in carcasses and nothing else. Heading towards Castle Age, it seems.
It's like, oh no, you've beat me with a stick. Well, I was raised in medieval Roos towns. I was used to that, all right? They've done worse things to us historically, so you better get safely home. Looks like you might actually end up losing one of the scouts. But it's close
famous
enough.
last words, better get safely home.
I mean, he's safely into the afterlife. I mentioned that brutal time being a serf in the Roos Kingdoms and medieval. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore, Lidicore. All right, oh my god, what is going on?
Ever since you said that he is just being beaten with a stick, he lost 5 scouts, okay?
It's just a stick, Lidicore. What's it gonna do?
Yeah, it's a stick with a pointy end, and you just get stabbed with it a gazillion times.
It's a stick with a blood end actually, because they use maces, right? I mean, technically, it has loads of pointy little sticks, so maybe that's why.
Well, the lance that they are stabbing him with actually has a pointy end.
No, they have like they bludgeon. Okay, you mean that, right? So initial poke, and then you bludgeon. It's death by concussion. And I mean, I feel like DeMu looks a bit disoriented here. That was a lot of scouts being lost. But he did get the first haul home. The next load is close enough. And High Trade House is on the way. MeomaikA, instead of trying to blow a few more troops, maybe go a few spears to wall in the sacred sites, he's just naked sending it into castle now. So he's trying to mirror the timing.
I don't like this for DeMu. Looking at MeomaikA, if you are able to mirror that castle age timing, considering that DeMu has absolutely no forces on the field, MeomaikA is looking at 3, 4, potentially 5 relics being taken away. He's going to try and grab all 5 of those relics, one of them being tucked away behind DeMu's base.
You self a 4.
It's going to be difficult,
yeah,
because you're going to have some horse archers out there, so he might not get home with every single relic. But at the same time, MeomaikA is going to have a decent timing on those relics altogether.
Yeah, but it's also like these initial horse archers can't do crap, right? Like they can try to gamble on which relic's being picked up, and at this pace they'll win because everything's being picked up. But the reality is they're gambling that they run to Ghazi. If they run to Ghazi, they're just going to die. So like, do you now risk those first few horse archers or accept this for what it is? If you accept this for what it is, you're in trouble here. For a start, like Deli is at the point now where they would have got pro scouts for free, so he could bring Deer back himself to stay safe. And then there's the follow-up conundrum, Lidicor, where this starts to get a little bit tricky, is Knights into War Elephant. That can really put a dampener on the Roost plans, especially if you get into Tower Elephants, where the Horse Archers are only going to tickle.
Yeah, Horse Archers now coming in here for DeMu. Looks like 3 relics will be on the way back home for MeomaikA. He won't be able to yoink away the one behind DeMu's base. But the 3 relics he picked up are the ones that were furthest away from him. There is one right next to his base as well. So realistically, unless DeMu pulls something spectacular here, we're going to be looking at a 4-to-1 relic split. Plus, essentially an even-steven type of a castle age timing, which is never a good sign against a civ like Deli. Because this means that MeomaikA click all these upgrades instantly. Once the scholars are back at home, he's going to get those stacks in very quickly, and he's going to have a substantial tech advantage.
And there's the initial interception. The Ghazi do find the small group of horse archers. And as a religious French baker once said, holy crap, I mean, this is getting a little bit worrisome, right? Like that many relics home, that's a null to your next objective. Then you have to consider that in Castle Age, that really is where you hit the crap store in Deli. Like the amount of free techs they unlock at this stage and the accelerant to do so is what makes this civ look so broken in a lot of people's eyes.
And horse archers in small groups aren't enough. They just don't have that individual prowess that lancers do. At the same time, if you can find villagers like this, that could be huge.
Huh?
And MeomaikA was a little careless with his veils right here because this is a prime opportunity for DeMu to punish.
But there might be a reason for that. We want to check the mill in this moment because I'm starting to think he didn't get pro scouts, which is crazy. You get it for free easily at this stage, right? Like there's nothing else to queue up, surely. No, he didn't get pro scouts.
Not even survival techniques, for that matter. And this is getting worrisome now for MeomaikA. He's going to clean up these horse archers, and he's actually doing a decent job trading off many of these horse archers. But the thing with horse archers is that they escalate exponentially. Once DeMu gets up to 15, 20, MeomaikA is going to be in trouble if he's trying to face them with lancers and horse archers.
I feel like MeomaikA has put himself at a critical disadvantage here, right? The whole logic in why the Roost just flopped dead at this stage is because Deli get the pro scouts for free on a delay, they drag back a few deer, they just keep their economy safe until they're ready to fight, right? Well, your economy isn't safe at this stage. He shuffled back to the deer, but he still hasn't even walled up yet because he doesn't have infantry to do it. He's going full cavalry comp, which means that the only people who could build those walls are workers. Right now, everyone needs to be working on getting an army pumping out of the Deli Empire.
But it's not working, that's the thing. When you look at the buildup of MeomaikA, it's slow. He just dropped 2 more stables, but the buildup of army is very, very slow. It's 17 versus 18 overall, but 8 of those units are scholars for MeomaikA. He's got 2 Lancers, 7 Ghazi Raiders in total.
Oh my god,
and at the same time, DeMu is now getting out a decent amount of Horse Archers, once again stretching out the defenses of his opponent. And once he gets to the critical mass of horse archers, he can just stand and fight against a couple of lancers.
Well, once he gets that critical mass, you trigger Boy's Fortitude, right? Which adds over 25% more health. That's when it just gets a really be a ludicrous thing to experience. We do have a decent amount of Ghazi coming in, so this should be enough to scare him away. But if he wants, DeMu could just circle towards the deer and take a few villagers with him, which just extends the lead when we get to the next wave. But in the meantime, MeomaikA has bloated a good solution. We're up to 15 Ghazi here. This is where things can get scary.
Those two stables with scholars inside are coming in clutch right now. Because,
he needs to counterattack,
as you could see, you had that clump of horse archers just picking away at units, and if MeomaikA is struggling to replace them, DeMu is just going to escalate his army a lot quicker. But now, the Ghazi Raiders are pumping out quicker than the horse archers do, and I think one of the big differences is that for horse archers, you need to be in one large cluster. So as DeMu starts losing more and more of these horse archers, it's going to be increasingly difficult to take good engagements.
Yeah, and there's the Boy's Fortitude we mentioned before, so it is triggered on the way. Needs to have it, but the guards just wallop him down so fast. I mean, at this stage, DeMu could benefit from just adding in a few knights. I actually think the crazier, simple solution is just add spears. Right now, your opponent doesn't have a solution. There is a little bit of a risk that Deli could add in war elephants, which, funnily enough, actually beats spears. I know that sounds stupid, but welcome to Deli life. And there we go. DeMu is switching into the spears now.
Is it going to come in time, though? That's a lot of Ghazi Raiders. And you also have a couple of Lancers mixed in here. And once these Ghazi Raiders start rolling, they can start potentially focusing down villagers, kind of offsetting that eco lead that DeMu has right now. They're, for now, focusing down all of these horse archers. The HP buff hasn't yet come in for these horse archers. They're still fairly fragile, and now the Lancers are finding their way onto the woodline. The casualties are just so big here for DeMu.
He's only got one worker kill so far, make it a second, but he's just discovered that this is 2 TC play, which is going to light a fire underneath MeomaikA's ass. It's not enough to do chip damage. He needs to find a way of being relentless on his bushes now. The first one is already starting to shrivel up, though.
Now, this is a really good raid over here. DeMu isn't even pulling the villagers back. So many of them fall victim to this raid. Villager count is neck and neck, and for a moment, DeMu had 30 idols. But he's on 2 TCs. He needs to make up the difference in relics.
Now, admittedly, the high trade house is going to make up a difference of about 2 relics. I imagine it's sitting about 148 or something at this stage. Oh, there we go, 138. So, you know, pretty ridiculous. Even when you don't look like you're getting a great high trade house, this makes up for it. He's also getting an extra 35 gold because he's gathering the deer there. So it's not too bad on passive income. What's more important, actually, is to stop Deli from now getting the sacred sites. That's the real kicker here, the accelerant they need.
It's also big that MeomaikA can now focus on getting these techs with the scholars. So far, it was relic collection, sacred site secured. He also had to commit quite a few of his scholars to just buff the production of the stables. Now he's on 11 scholars and he's getting all these Castle Age techs in. So we're going to start seeing that tech advantage come into play for MeomaikA soon.
Archery range is coming down now as well. So MeomaikA is actually going to be switching the archers. Smart choice here, considering it's spear, horse archer. However, it's not online yet. In the meantime, DeMu can still find more damage. Is that... I think Meo still doesn't have textiles.
Oh, that would be such a slip up with Deli.
Yeah,
oh,
no textiles.
It's a free tech. It's basically 1 villager's worth of time, and he already lost 9 in this game.
It's kind of crazy, like, especially, like, even before the first raid, it makes sense to get against Rus. You know they're going to turn up at some point. If you're playing Pocket Economy, the crazier part to me is MeomaikA tried to play Pocket Economy without even outposts, let alone walls, right? And usually that's the play you see from Deli. When they give these berries, 1 to 2 outposts is a justifiable investment for what you protect. But not much protection on the backside here.
Even wallable.
I mean, yeah, long term, right? But definitely that backside should have been easily wallable. So the Ghazi are going to be able to shuffle in. No textiles for DeMu makes a little bit more sense usually.
Oh boy,
it's starting to cost him a pretty penny.
That's a lot of kills there for MeomaikA. He actually takes over in the villager department, which is never a good sign. That mobility with the horsemen or Ghazi Raiders against the horse archers, well, not the horse archers necessarily, but the spearman plus horse archer combination, that mobility advantage that MeomaikA has is starting to show. And now the archers are standing and fighting, doing a decent job against this combination of troops.
Yeah, the spearmen aren't being stepped away from those. The horse archers are trying to do their best to snipe out whatever they can. The issue's going to be after this fight. Like, DeMu, he may have got a few worker kills.
Yeah.
But now look at the difference in military. Yes, MeomaikA does have 14 scholars, but the core of it is blobbing the archers, which is now forcing DeMu to switch over to MAA.
Now, MeomaikA did lose most of his cavalry here, so he's missing out on some mobility. And let's not forget, MeomaikA did lose quite a few villagers as well. But at the same time, he's sitting on a lot of passive resource income. Especially the 4 relics. If he starts taking sacred sites again, that's going to be a big factor. For now, one thing that we gotta give DeMu credit for is the ability not only to decap the sacred sites, but also secure them. He's actually in control of 2 sacred sites out of the 3.
And now the other interesting thing is how he can leverage his spawn. I'd love to see him move out to wall off the 2 tree lines on the left, because if I'm not mistaken, he's taken this moment to start building farms in the northern corner. Great idea, but currently still a very raidable area of the map for the Ghazi.
Yeah, I think both of these players, considering how the forests have spawned, they should invest into some small walls. It would work wonders, especially for MeomaikA. DeMu has all these horse archers. As long as the map is open, they can get a lot of villager kills very quickly. As long as you have walls up, they are totally useless when it comes to raiding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still shocked that he's playing so open still this deep, 18, 19 minutes into the game. Scholar count is starting to blow up, so something we have to be conscious of is as time goes on, Deli do have this ability to slip into the Imperial. I don't think we're necessarily going to see it in this game in a rush, simply because MeomaikA is kind of exhausting flank resources a bit too fast, and I don't think he has a single farm set up yet.
Yeah, it's...
Oh, there we go. We've got 4. That's going to carry me all the way to... Oh, okay, that's getting a little bit better now,
That's going to leave him very exposed very soon, because right now he's kind of committing his resources into a farm transition. DeMu, at the same time, actually captured all 3 sacred sites, even though it's not going to last very long. But now he's mixing in men-at-arms, and there aren't very many crossbows right now for MeomaikA. He's got 3 Ghazi, 4 crossbows. It's not a lot when you have to deal with 15 plus men-at-arms.
No, and we also have DeMu just snaking his way into horsemen also. I mean, he's early in the farm transition, right? But like, if he's able to kind of creep his way up to the count of about 20, this could just overwhelm and kill everything Meo has. Meo is not aware. You can tell by the fact he hasn't gone for spears, he hasn't added in additional Ghazi. Like, he's going raw maximum range DPS.
That's still a lot of archers from MeomaikA, though.
It is.
And remember,
but...
he's got a lot of healing power, too, and men-at-arms aren't particularly fast when it comes to killing archers, so...
It's not about the men-at-arms, though. It's about the horseman play, right? Like, this is the whole idea.
You mean the 4 horsemen?
Yeah, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right? Because they're gonna bode the future. He's at 1,200 feet income. If he can sustain that and hide the horseman play, all this does right now is convinces MeomaikA he's doing the right thing building crossbows. It sets him up to get countered on the next step. So MeomaikA, if he wants to make this work, it's not enough to just win this engagement. He then has to plow past and into the base to catch DeMu in the middle of this switch.
Yeah, DeMu doesn't have a lot of horsemen, though, and
he
actually shows
them.
his hand early here. Has to show the horsemen. And now, MeomaikA knows fully well what's going on, and it's 70 army against 20 from DeMu. Fair enough, a lot of that is scholars for MeomaikA, but still, he's got a respectable force of archers and crossbows out there. And when you look at DeMu's army, it's just not there.
No, it's kind of crazy. He felt either desperate or the other possibility is that was a select all army. I'm not sure you really want to reveal the horseman. Like, he revealed 2, right? 2 isn't going to change a battle against 40 archers, right? It's just not going to do anything different. So now, like, realistically, MeomaikA should be prepping into, what, say, Raxus here? Just get a few bad boys in. Even just men-at-arms of his own would be good enough to protect. DeMu now needs to buy some time. The good news, at least, is, like, MeomaikA is unlikely to just commit these archers into the base, into spawn, knowing that there are going to be horsemen.
You say that, but I'm not so sure. MeomaikA might feel like, okay, I know about the second TC of my opponent. Sure, I have the relic lead, but he's got the high trade house. I think MeomaikA might be willing to commit. It's a bit of a gamble, but if it works out, he could do substantial damage, especially if he feels like he isn't facing a lot of horsemen, which kind of is the case. DeMu is just not building up that horseman mass.
I mean, we're up to 13. Yeah, like 13 could be enough to push this away. He needs to be on point with the start step away. I don't think he actually has the forced march, which would be a sick way of disengaging if you do get swarmed. But the push comes in. The horsemen are on top, and the men-at-arms are even starting to reach here. Is this going to be enough to hold? He's down to just 8. MeomaikA is back out the base. And I think we might have a stay of execution here.
Yeah, the reinforcements take a long time for MeomaikA to come in. He still has a huge nominal lead in terms of army, but it's just not there on the field. They're just now walking across. Now, with all the horsemen, all the men-at-arms being gone, you have to be careful not to lose these horse archers. And I feel like at the end of the day, this just ended up being an even-ish trade or so. But if you're MeomaikA, you're thinking twice about diving again.
I don't think DeMu spends his evenings watching reruns of My Little Pony. Like, this man is obsessed with horse archers, but now just layering the horsemen. I mean, if MeomaikA does at any stage just say add in spears or elephants could work as well. Curious that he went tower elephants here, Lytical. Those things will melt against horsemen. Usually from this position, war elephants is the giga play, and it's cheaper as well.
If you're MeomaikA, you're starting to get worried. You have a huge army lead on paper, but it's not really an army that you can dive a base with, at least not without taking some substantial risks. But the eco is now looking so fragile for him. He's down by 17 workers, and again, a lot of the relic differential is offset by the Rus Hydrate House. He does have all 3 sacred sites, but at the same time, DeMu is now essentially set up late game Rus. He's got 4 farms set up, and he's getting to that stage where Rus is really unlocking its power. I feel like there is a bit of a timer in here for MeomaikA.
I mean, Meo, I kind of like this idea, just capture the sacred sites, but I'd like it a lot better if you at least wall in. Even better if you can start to keep dropping, right? Because then you have your own TCs at work. Instead, it just feels like Meo has captured the sacred sites, gone, right, that'll do it, and then walked all the way back to his base. That's not usually a solid sacred site win condition plan. I'm still confused by the tower elephants.
It's a weird choice. It feels like it's more of a, okay, let's try to kite and let's try to essentially mix a ranged unit into my ranged army already. But DeMu is now making a strong pivot into horsemen, and one difference between the players is that MeomaikA still hasn't walled a bit. DeMu, at the very least, walled off that little, I guess, avenue between the 2 forests that he started with. So he can focus most of his attention towards the front of his base. But here, if you're MeomaikA, you're exposed in all directions. And you're exposed because you also have a very slow-moving army. It's just archers and elephants.
And because you're allergic to wolves. Yep.
If DeMu starts getting larger and larger horseman raids in here, MeomaikA is going to struggle to keep track of them.
Yeah, the interesting part about this is, like, in a weird way, these tower elephants get value for MeomaikA. Maybe he assumed there was going to be a crossbow transition. I don't know why you would. Like, to me, DeMu is expecting war elephants. That's why he's building crossbows, right? And also, just, you know, you can replace horse archers with crossbows. It'll feel better in the exchanges. This is a lot of archers from the Deli. Now, the risk you run is if this hits Imperial
He's going
Age,
to go. He's 200 pop right now. I think this is the go sign for him. It's worrisome for him, though, that he doesn't have a direct answer to horsemen. And it's not like DeMu is down by that much population. So at the end of the day, MeomaikA might just say, okay, I'm 200 pop, let's go. But at the same time, I don't know if he's got an answer to all these horsemen. Probably against the horsemen alone, it's fine, but...
I mean, that's all the info. Look at what DeMu's doing. This should be a Sky Tower, right? Because there's a risk you get Dove, but he'll be an Imperial. That's the most important thing. Ideally, you want high armory. He's going to go high armory, isn't he? Like, yeah, you can see it by the location of the Siege Workshop. So this is a little bit greedy. There will be a dive point for MeomaikA, but he needs to be standing outside of the base when the time comes and check what DeMu is doing. He flank raids to try and force MeomaikA home.
I don't think MeomaikA should come back.
He's not. He's heading.
I think this is actually good for MeomaikA. DeMu might do some eco damage, but let's be real. At this point, this game is not decided on ecos. If MeomaikA doesn't make something happen in the next 2 minutes, it's game over anyways. But at the same time,
though, his whole army is
DeMu have
ranged.
enough to stop this?
The thing is, MeomaikA's whole army is ranged, so he has to kill the villages, right? You can't necessarily kill the base. I mean, yes, he's got these elephants, but that's not a quick, like, landmark solution, right? So as long as DeMu's got some reserves and resources, he should be able to stand his ground here over time. Meanwhile, on the backside of this, villages are being flopped down on the farm. So dive comes through. MeomaikA, at this point, has to be aware. Mangoes are coming out. That's going to have to scare him away. I don't think he glanced the high armory at all. And more mangoes are on the way from DeMu. So yes, the horsemen cleared up. Now your mass range diving into choke points against your direct counter.
This is do or die for MeomaikA. He's not going to leave
really
this base alive.
TC.
The more mangoes that are built, the smaller his chances. But he still has a huge numbers advantage, and horse archers aren't good when it comes to standing and fighting. Imperial comes in for DeMu. MeomaikA now knows that he's gotta go, but he doesn't really have the tools to snipe those mangonels with.
You've got to Michael Phelps this. Dive. He spent so long sitting on that TC, virtually doing nothing, and now the punishment comes in. Mango's moving up. The archers bunch up for death. DeMu is not going to die to this, and he is going to get an ability to rush the map afterwards.
I feel like MeomaikA was trying to wait for the cavalry to arrive. He built a bunch of Gauss Raiders and Knights to protect his base against the cav raid. He cleaned them up, and I think he was waiting for them to arrive before diving, but he missed crucial seconds. He was standing there, and by the time he started committing, it was just mangonels and choke points. And really, this game comes down to the fact that he had a gigantic army for a while, but it was simply unused. He was standing back at home or at the middle of the map, but DeMu was never threatened by this huge force.
No, and like your army is forced to desperation dive into mangoes and choke points. That's never a recipe for success here. That's why it just looks so gruesome. And now we reach the hyper late game situation, at least for DeMu. And the classic law of the jungle remains true, Lidicor. Gun beats elephant. Streltsy are now on the way. MeomaikA doesn't have an economy to get him up in age. So instead, Benny Boy is going to be locking in game number 2.
It's one apiece here, and it's an elimination match, KP. One of these two players will not make it into the remaining portion of the tournament. This game was just clean from DeMu, though. I do want to take a look at that military graph, though, because I think that tells you the whole story. Throughout this game, MeomaikA, the only thing that he was doing is massing army. He never built a second TC. He was just one TC, relics plus sacred sites, and full army buildup. But because that dive just completely collapsed at the end, all hope was lost, and it was just a complete, I guess, dismantling of his army from DeMu's side. And from that point onwards, there was just no way back. DeMu played a very patient and slow game, and he just waited for MeomaikA to commit, and that commit just didn't come together.
I'll warn you now, this thought process, this execution, you're going to see this a repeat pattern for MeomaikA. If you think back to game 1, that's exactly what it was there as well, right? Attack, 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 attack. This guy's only ever interested in attacking Lidicor. I've cast him doing Zhuji, Zhuginu all in rushes, even though he scouted straight away against Night Sieves. I've watched this man go for full Monk strats in Castle Age. He doesn't have a chill pill. He will always look to play pressure. It's quite interesting to watch, because I did mention MeomaikA's background in StarCraft. He's a Zerg main. Right, and if you ask most Zerg mains, the way you're meant to play, you're meant to be all about macro, right? More than the other two factions. It's almost like this guy is playing the OG idea of Zergs, where you just spam crap tons of units and rush the enemy base. Because just as you saw towards the end of this one, it's all he's ever interested in doing.
And that is something that the opponent can leverage in a way. If you know that your opponent is going to try to aggress you, you just play very defensive. And Rus is a great civilization to do that with. You do have all these static defenses. You have an extremely powerful economy. And I would dare to say that even in the previous game, English versus Japanese, if DeMu wasn't facing Japanese specifically, such a strategy would have worked. Kind of anchor down with the English, leverage that strong economy, and wait for your opponent to dive. In that case, things didn't work out because Japanese were just Japanese. They secured the majority of the relics, and MeomaikA picked up too much momentum. But this is something that MeomaikA might need to reconsider going into the remainder of the series. If he's always the aggressor, DeMu can use that as the basis of his strategy choice.
And, you know, I think Age of Empires 4 hits a bit stronger with that idea than other RTSs, really. Defender is advantageous at the absolute highest level, right? If you're able to execute cleanly, it is an advantage, a very big one, the game that already sets you up with a nice hunkered position. So MeomaikA really needs to take that to heart. You know, I think we have a different game if there's some walls early on, or if there's some keep drops on the sacred sides. All of a sudden, DeMu can't just thread the needle in this Imperial play. But we move ahead. Four Lakes is up next. Mongols versus Order of the Dragon. Ben has been grinding OTD Lidicor. I think in the last few weeks, it may actually be his most played Civ. So we might be seeing more acts of inspirational creativity from the Dragon Boys.
Oh, back to Four Lakes we go. I absolutely love this map. I know some people dislike it, but it's a classic. I think there are very few maps in the Age of Empires franchise which are just like uniformly there in the competitive scene of almost every single Age title. And Four Lakes is one of these. It's one of the most classic AoE 2 competitive maps, and it has also been a competitive map in AoE 4 for a while. This time around, DeMu is going to be in command of the Order of the Dragon in purple, and MeomaikA with the Mongols in yellow.
Definitely a blast from the past. Four Lakes kind of fell out of the rotation some time ago, but as we return to it with new civs, I mean, it's interesting because it used to be the new civ that would appear here all the time was Japanese. OTD, I don't think we've really seen it more than maybe 2 or 3 times in competitive. So curious to see what they can do upon their return in 2025. MeomaikA's picking the Mongols can make more sense on Four Lakes. It also makes more sense for him. This is Mio's most played civ by far.
And it kind of plays into that style that he loves to play with. This whole aggressive and dictate the tempo style approach that he likes to take. That is exactly what Mongols are all about. Japanese is not an option on this map, by the way. It's something that has already been used up on Himeyama.
Yeah.
And Japanese would have been a very intriguing pick here for MeomaikA as well. Opts to go for the Mongols, racks opening, gets scouted immediately by DeMu. So DeMu knows fully well that there is going to be pressure coming towards his dock here.
Yeah, curious to see what he does to address that. I mean, there is a short wall opportunity there just to the south side, but you then also have to connect north as well. That could be good enough, and probably would have been the option in the old meta, but since the changes to wall build speeds, it feels a lot less like optimal than I'd say where we're at before. And there's actually still a risk of interception, right? So instead, it looks like he's just going to rush out to the gold. I think that's 5 workers, if I'm not mistaken. Might actually be 4. Should be able to get enough gold before the pressure arrives.
Yep, that's actually a very exposed gold mine. He does have a reasonable-ish back up to the north, also one to the south. This might be as safe as gold, actually.
Yeah, I think you just wall the south side gold, and then you have gold later on. But instead, he's just going to get the 1 grab there.
Is that enough?
No, that's definitely not enough. He's going back again with the beefy villagers. Remember, these ones are more tanky than standard villagers. 15 extra health.
And MeomaikA is not prioritizing the gold mine, though. He spotted the villagers for a moment. I mean, he should know that there is going to be gold mining being done.
The spearman saw it, right? But like he didn't see it, I think is the issue. Otherwise, you'd be kind of dialing in on that. Instead, DeMu with the double dock drop may have just baited MeomaikA off his real target here.
I don't know if this was a bait, though, because at the end of the day, you do anticipate your opponent to go for gold. I wonder if this was more about MeomaikA just saying, okay, I don't care about the gold. My target is the docks. Whichever way, I do agree with you. DeMu dodges a bit of a bullet right there because he gets cut off from gold in Dark Age. That would have been terrible. He is going to lose. No.
Yeah, he definitely loses the village.
Okay,
no. Stabby. Definitely gets the kill. They're tanky buggers, but they will fall. MeomaikA is going very aggressive, by the way. We're up to 8 spearmen now. Good lord. Well, the negative for MeomaikA is he doesn't have an outburst yet, right?
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. Every time you look at a hybrid map, if a player commits to docks and Dark Age fishing, it delays Feudal Age. And when you go for Dark Age rush with Spearmen, it does the same thing. The key thing here is that because we are looking at fishing here for DeMu, he's not going up to Feudal Age yet, so he's nowhere close to getting a couple of archers out to clean this up. In fact, you could argue that MeomaikA might actually be on par with DeMu in terms of Feudal Age timing here. It's going to be probably a little delayed, but at the same time, he's going to have so many spears out here.
Yeah, I'm still surprised Mio didn't go for the outpost play. Getting an outpost on the tree line just feels like a GG move, right? Because now DeMu just needs to get into Gilded Archers to mob this fast. So instead, he's definitely going to be able to get the dog. I think, though, maybe it was a little bit more value here if Mio had just walked the villager over sooner. Like, he's got up to 12 spearmen. This feels like a pretty overkill commitment at this stage.
I think he wants to make sure the docks are gone, but sure, you take out the dock. If you get cleaned up afterwards, DeMu just rebuilds that.
Yeah, but like 12 spears to clear up the docks. Like, you say it's like he wants to make sure he's got it. It's like when someone's laying dead on the ground, blood spilling out everywhere, and then you shoot them with a rocket launcher just to be safe, you know?
Yeah, DeMu canceled that dock out there, but the bounty was still given to MeomaikA, so MeomaikA comes away with a decent haul of resources in exchange. Just to your point about the Spearman, one of the things I don't like is that if he doesn't commit to that many Spearmen, he could have been maybe a little quicker when it comes to dropping the stable and getting some horsemen out to deal with the initial gilded archers.
Yeah, and the weird part to me now is like with no intent to outpost rush, these 12 spearmen are just kind of weird. Like the only reason this would make sense if you thought your opponent was going to pro scouts, but
No!
do you
DeMu is
guys...
trying to sneak a dock to take out the enemy fishing eco. Little does he know that there is none.
I mean, but it's fine because once you realize there's no eco, you just add in your own fishing boats here and patrol the archer ship, right? Like, this is still a good play for DeMu. And in the meantime, the Gilded Archer is going to reclaim his own pond. So, you know, we're on 4 lakes, and right now MeomaikA is playing, let me just get my calculator out quickly and find my head again.
0 lakes?
0, yeah, 0 lakes. I think in his brain, it's like the name of this map is not 4 lakes, it's called X.
Funnily, as you say that, because the original map of this name is actually Cross. Did you know that?
I think I recall being told that, yeah.
Yeah,
But for MeomaikA, this is X.
the original script called it Cross, and then when it was integrated into the base game in AoE 4, they gave the name 4 Lakes, which just sounded very lame at the time, but I guess we got used to it.
I don't know, I kind of just, like, I'm fine with Cross. X. You like, you know, because X is great, because then you like, X marks the spot where you're going to die. That's what you type when you get in game, Lidicore, and then you build 12 spearmen and you rush their dock. Oh. And now we have Keshiks. So, DeMu,
okay.
One of the tricky things with OOTD is like you can easily overblow into a certain unit type and then just get beaten down by 1 or 2 of the counter plays. He has got spearmen coming in, but like it's 12 spearmen already. Yeah, the way MeomaikA wants to fight is more poke-based. He needs to kind of make sure the position's right, because if DeMu gets to stand still with these machine guns, the Gilded Archers will mow everything.
One thing I don't like about the 12 Spearman build is that if you, let's say, just go 10 or 8, you could have actually started building your stable as you were going up the feudal age. You can do that with the Mongols, so you might have gotten a little head start when it comes to getting the Kashik out. Now, credit MeomaikA for having a lot of map awareness. He has a Spearman right next to this gold mine here. He's trying to contain DeMu's expansion towards gold. And he has actually hidden his Spearman in that stealth forest to the south for quite a while. He's just now moving towards this gold mine, though, and I think DeMu is anticipating that because he's looking for intercept.
If this Spearman just runs to the south side and brings the villagers with him, it could be a massacre. Looks like the Gilded Archers are going to react to the first one, but actually the Keshiks could just get in here. Scout does see it.
You do have Gilded Spearmen, and Gilded Spearmen just shred cavalry.
They free hit Keshiks. It's pretty ridiculous.
That's good. That's what I would call shred.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would say shred as much as completely just full-on Leonidas impale the spear through his face. You know? It's pretty brutal. I mean, Kashyyyk struggle usually against spears, but this is like the most painful engagement. So, MeomaikA, you know what? I'm wondering, is there a world in which he tries to go archers here? Probably not against Gilded Archers. Instead, he's just going to blob and go. Kashyyykk's going to be able to find a kill or 2. But it's difficult. Like I mentioned, the Gilded Archers, just higher base damage, a ridiculous attack speed. The risk right now for MeomaikA, he's only just started fishing, so he doesn't exactly have this disposable level of income yet.
MeomaikA actually expanded towards the southern pond here. I don't think DeMu knows about that. DeMu tried to contest his original pond. There is nothing right there. And frankly, there is a 6 eco lead here for MeomaikA. Of course, some of that is the weird math that you get with the Order of the Dragon Wheels. But you lost 3 of those OOTD wheels out there if you're DeMu, so you did take a bit of a beating in the early game.
Yeah, and well, the problem is the fishing is going to complement. And oh wow, he tried to sneak on the western pond. I think the archer is there an archer ship out there that saw him? Yeah, so MeomaikA ends up losing a worker trying to get on the west side pond. Loses Keshiks here as well. Does at least get a worker kill.
Nasty.
It's a double worker kill, even better.
It's so weird that DeMu doesn't know about the pond to the south. He isn't even contesting that. At the same time, it really feels like MeomaikA had no idea that his pond got docked by the opponent. Loses 2 workers, and that hurts a lot because he just killed another villager on the other side on the gold mine. Eventually, DeMu's going to get back to that huge clump of archers, and this whole group of spearmen will become obsolete. I think we're getting to that same stage that we had in the previous game where DeMu is stabilizing, and he's getting to the stage where it's going to be MeomaikA's job to attack him.
Yeah, MeomaikA just doesn't really have a real eco upside here, right? It's 2 pawn versus 1. It could easily be 3 pawns because DeMu's already at the gold on the north side. Just drop a dog and Bob's your uncle, right? Like, all he needs to do is blow Gilded Archers. It kills everything that MeomaikA has. Like, God forbid this man ever gets his hands on a blacksmiths, because then it really is just GG.
Yeah, DeMu didn't have a lot of gold to work with so far, so he's actually severely behind in terms of upgrades.
The crazier part to me as well is, like, MeomaikA, that attempt to get on the west side ponds, Doc was, what, 90% complete? Surely it's worth pulling one more villager, just try and get in there when the archership isn't looking, or you just force the archership to stay there long term. Because, you know, if you force a distraction with, say, the Keshiks and you get that pond going, all of a sudden, you know, you have a competitive game. But, like, right now, you just have a blocker on your own economy scaling, and you're not really slowing DeMu down anymore, right? Like, we've got a shuffling now with the Keshiks. My health should protect the Gilded Villages for the most. In fact, is he going to... Yeah, he will at least get 1 kill, but there we go. The Power Leonidas coming through. Just ridiculous how easy it is for one Spearman to take on multiple Keshiks.
Gilded Spearmen are some of the craziest units in the game, I feel. The bonus damage they get for cavalry against cavalry is so bonkers that you just need one slip up from the opposing player and you obliterate like 20 cavalry in a second.
Yeah.
It looks like MeomaikA is going now. I just feel like this is too late.
Yeah, the best part is when you say, I feels like MeomaikA is going now, and then we just have no pack-up tech, really slow-moving Deerstone. He's sending it, Lidical. Give him a few minutes, but he'll be there soon.
It's like... looks like public transport in downtown DC.
It's like waiting for the old lady to walk over the road. Like, yep, she's almost there, and you know, you get to the point where, like, is manslaughter worth it? So, Deerstone has now arrived. That will give him the mobility to pivot left and right. But he needs the Khan Hunter to even contest this, because those Gilded Archers by default already have more range than you.
Yeah. Army count is a little deceiving because DeMu does have 2 galleys that do get counted towards that. But I'm not a fan of 23 ordinary archers against 13 or so Gilded Archers. 8 Gilded Spearmen will absolutely make mincemeat out of these Keshik. And you also have the ability to reinforce a lot quicker here if you're DeMu.
No problem is he didn't get under mesh first. Right, so these Keshiks actually have plastic shielding. Remember, Gilded Archers have longbow damage by default. So yeah, we're still down in the way. DeMu's Gatling guns are about to go insane in this engagement. And arms as well.
MeomaikA is looking for an angle once again, but diving this base is getting more and more challenging. And once the man-at-arms start coming in, it's going to get increasingly difficult to deal with this. Upgrades will be in for MeomaikA. But at the same time, DeMu is getting so much time to build up his own numbers and also grab his own upgrades as well.
Yeah, it just feels weird that, like, MeomaikA, considering he's got DeMu on containment protocol, like, why is he not just taking wider objectives, right? Like, he must know his opponent's ponding. He knows he's on the west side at least. Like, you know, maybe peel the Keshiks, poke a little bit there, because the reality is all the Dragon don't have marching drills, right? So if you see them coming, yeah, just run away. Pressure coming that north side again. It's once again about the gold. Handful of Keshiks.
That's your best objective here. If you can cut DeMu off from gold, you can prevent him from going into Castle Age. You do need to find other targets though. Simply camping the gold isn't going to be enough. Now, if you kill 5 villagers here, that's a good pickup.
Yeah, kind of surprised that DeMu, he had his Gilded Archer second wave a little bit too far away. He's going to commit now.
You gotta
They're shoreline fishing. He'll pull them away.
That's a little sloppy from MeomaikA. He could have gotten all 5.
Yeah, but I don't think he was expecting it. So it's like, oh, you don't really anticipate the Mystic. The crazy thing there is DeMu, he was trying to be really greedy. He was waiting for undermesh before he took that engagement. Hence why he essentially was sacking the villages. Unfortunate as well, because if he just had like one house between the archery range and the mining camp, he would have had emergency repairs, which would have saved him.
Mining camp getting casually dropped right next to the deer stones. It looks like MeomaikA is looking to fight once again. He's a lot more patient than he was in the previous game, but he's also trying to deny resources a lot more aggressively. This time around, he's not just posturing mid-map, he's trying to actively deny resources.
It kind of feels like that patience is somewhat killing them, though, because he's so paranoid about the threat of the big army, he's not, like, going on the flanks at all, right? Like, these Gilded Archers should be able to carry the engagement. That's just going to start coming through. Men-at-Arms really want to be heading in, so they absorb shots. Looks like DeMu Not getting the best of exchanges there. I think he maybe hung around a little bit too long, burning instead of diving. MeomaikA does still have those Keshiks waiting, so like if this spear count goes down to 0, DeMu is in a pickle.
One thing that we haven't really talked about is that MeomaikA built a substantial fishing eco to the south, and he killed a lot of gilded villagers now. It's actually a 17 eco lead in total.
It's pretty nuts, yeah.
Yeah, it's now a substantial lead, and we're getting to the stage where MeomaikA might not actually need to dive hard in here. He might just be content cutting his opponent off from gold. As long as DeMu is cut off from gold, he cannot go into Castle Age, and that's why he's heading towards that third gold mine to the right side, which is completely uncontested.
Yeah, we do see him walling it off now, right? I wonder when we're going to get to this, because it looked like the safest one of the 3 options. Keshiks, in the meantime, are just going to stock up their health and get a little bit of burn bounty. But it's going to come at a cost. That's Deerstone down. Now, the reason why that fight was looking so good over the Deerstone for MeomaikA was the movement speed, right? You were able to move in, poke the archers, move out before they can respond with their own attacks. Not easy to do, but he was finding the way. Now, with the mobility removed, MeomaikA needs a new solution. Maybe a new aura, per se. Maybe one that you get in Castle Age.
Indeed. I absolutely love this. Keep in mind, he knew fully well that DeMu wasn't on gold. And because of this, he knows that he can go to Castle Age and DeMu is not going to be there. Now, DeMu moved out to the gold quite recently, but he sent like 20 villagers, so DeMu isn't going to be that much behind in Castle Age timing, but you can just see how much MeomaikA wants that Castle Age timing. He was willing to push up the Deer Stones for aggression. He's now going up with the Coral Die. He wants to finish this before DeMu gets to Castle Age.
MeomaikA's like, I'd do anything for Castle Age. Anything? Pulls 29 villages. Yeah, he desperately wants this. DeMu is going to have to rapidly follow suit. The worry is the timing here. The good news is the Kurultai is back at home and mobility isn't in yet. If MeomaikA kind of skirts his timing, doesn't actually rush, DeMu can win the next fight because although you have a damage buff, DeMu will offset most of your base damage due to scale armor on these Gilded Archers.
That's a lot of Keshik though, and if you're MeomaikA, you're looking for opportunities to hit the eco with the Keshik. You know that DeMu has a slow-moving army, and you also know that he lost a lot of eco. If you can get some more villager kills, things will get very ugly for DeMu very soon. DeMu himself, rushing up that landmark with 18 vills, knows that he needs to catch up. But there's going to be a window here for MeomaikA. He's getting his veterancy in.
Right now, these are Kekiks, though. Like, he isn't getting the veterancy in for them, right? So, like, DeMu could fight him directly. It's kind of crazy he's not. He's paranoid. He thinks that advantage is coming in. It only just got queued. He repairs on the house, but the Kurultai is about to park itself right next to the TC. It's not your base anymore.
Tell me you're looking at a MeomaikA game without telling me.
Mongol players, man. They rate as what, like a 10 out of 10 on aggression? Well, I mean, this is 10 out of 10 on aggression, right? It doesn't get more aggressive than your landmark next to theirs. Not allowed to put the TC there anymore.
DeMu's going to get housed over here, and that is going to be huge. He loses a couple of houses, he doesn't have E-repairs, and that will make it a lot more difficult to get new units out. Sure, he can get the upgrades, but even that is going to take some time. He's not going to get the Archer attack upgrade here. Kurultai is redeploying once again, and there's just so much that you can run. I think this time around, MeomaikA has a much better dive than in the previous game.
Yeah, DeMu has to avoid the plague here, right? But the problem is, like, what are you going to lose for it? Because he's got a scale armor coming. That's a minute-long tech. That's the way you can potentially win.
You could have actually taken the production buildings and stopped the upgrades. These are the only 2 production buildings DeMu has.
I mean, for some reason, he just wants the TC. He's like, emergency repairs, OP, something, die. He's going to be taking out the primary TC. So DeMu, it don't need worker kills, but you can't build additional, right? It's good enough. And the burn rate is good enough to stop E-repairs from really changing anything. DeMu has to commit to the fight prematurely. Veterancy for archers is coming in. Scale armor is still 15 seconds away. The men-at-arms, however, are upgraded, but the Kurultai buff makes them look like normal men-at-arms.
There is no shot here for DeMu. There's just no shot. I think he wanted to commit to prevent the TC from going down, and he did just that. But he simply doesn't have the troops to fight this. Maybe if it wasn't for a Kurultai, but it's just too much. These are fully upgraded Castle Age units for MeomaikA. DeMu is still lacking the ranged attack upgrade. And at the same time, these units are also being buffed by the Kurultai.
Well, they're out of range now, and scale armor is a pretty big deal here, but he needs to just commit the Keshik. Once that's in, this should just be GG.
Yeah.
DeMu, he's actually building Springald chips. He's praying that water can protect him against the Mongol horde. Now, historically, for certain countries, that was pretty damn effective.
It did work at some times, but it didn't work for the Order of the Dragon here. And now, if you don't stand and fight with the archers, your villagers will suffer. DeMu has to just make an emergency gate out here. And there's a second layer behind us. Horsemen are coming in from MeomaikA. New Kashyyyks are on the way too. Maybe he's a little overzealous. I don't really love engaging against this position.
I mean, your entire economy is here, right? Like, if you're just idling DeMu out, it's worth it. Like, this is absolutely fine right now. And he just peels back. He's like, okay, you maybe like got some villagers hiding behind the base. Let's check on them. He didn't finish the town center, though.
No, he didn't.
The E-repair just came in.
DeMu committed to the fight when the DC was at 50 HP and it was still being E-repaired. So it survived that initial push, and because MeomaikA pursued, DeMu could actually get himself a second E-repairs to get it back to normal health.
He's actually moving the Kurotai down to where the tree line's gathering now. And surely this should be the dive that just puts DeMu in his grave. Villagers are going to try to run away. They can actually go outside, but the problem is the Mongols came from outside. So if he just rallies that next wave that's sitting in the center of the map to the south side, that's curtains closed on this game. It's all he needs to do to win this.
Yeah, this is looking grim for DeMu. Remember, a lot of his villagers were idled, so replenishing these expensive units is just so challenging for him. And every building that gets torched down gives a bounty to the Mongol player as well. I would actually love to see some rams here for MeomaikA. There's just so much real estate that he could knock down because DeMu simply doesn't have the power to take rams out right now.
Whoopsie. Boats may have hung around a little bit too long there. The throne ship and the Gallier is going to go down.
Boink.
Most of the cavalry's been cleared. DeMu is just trying to hold on for dear life with the Gilded Archers got left. There is no Kurotai buff here. But the numbers... I think the Gilded Archers might win if the Kashyyyks stay out of this.
Yeah,
stay out of this.
I love this fight for MeomaikA. Like,
They've
he's
just
in a
ruined
really
the
good
experiment.
spot, but he should not throw this game away from this position. That's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, your opponent has two of his landmarks basically in your base, right? I mean, the Deer Stone's on your starting gold. It's dead, admittedly. The Kurotai is basically at your TC. We have DeMu pretty much playing the role of the Mongols, a nomadic civ moving across the map, and the Mongols taking routes.
Yeah, but then again, MeomaikA hasn't finished all those villagers off to the south. Like, this game should be over by now, I feel.
No, I reckon we've got another 10 minutes in this one, to be honest with you, Lytical. What's going to happen is he's going to almost kill the town center again and then walk away. And then E-repairs will come off cooldown. And then we'll just be out here again in 5 minutes, I think.
DeMu still doesn't have an army, though. He's got 14 Gilded Archers, that's basically it. He's facing 43 Archers on the other side, plus a bunch of Kashyyyk, plus the Kurotai buff. And now I think DeMu has finally been found out to the south. Oh, no, it's just, you know, casual wildlife. If he's too busy microing, he's gonna get all his villagers killed by that wolf, by the way.
Well, I mean, I think DeMu, if he can't beat a wolf with those villagers, then we really have a real problem here. That's at least a fight he can win. That might actually be the only fight he can really win in this game now, though.
Probably.
This
is about
time,
to go down here.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Nope, it's not gonna happen.
Wait for it. No, we don't trust him to stop throwing torches. All right, there we go. TC's down. Now we should just be able to end the game. GG comes out. MeomaikA now leading against DeMu.
Wow. We are seeing a pattern in this series. Every single series, or every single game, I should say, MeomaikA is the ultimate aggressor, and DeMu just needs to stand and defend. And it did work out in game number 2. It didn't work in game number 3 here. MeomaikA just went absolute crazy with the level of aggression he put up. Just starting from the 12 Spearmen. And then, essentially, this military graph that you see right here is almost identical to the one that we've seen in the previous game, only that this time around, DeMu wasn't able to just go up to Imperial and get a couple of mangonels against mass archers. I think if you're DeMu, you really have to think about, okay, how do I throw off the build? Okay, what? Okay, there we go. Production just showed us the actual graph from the previous game. it's copy-paste the same except for the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think when you're DeMu, you have to start thinking about how you could potentially throw off the early game build of MeomaikA. Because I think the difference between this game and the previous one was the fact that in this game, DeMu wasn't able to stall long enough to have a strong defense ready.
Yeah. I think the thing that really matters as well is maybe the gold choice. We mentioned that south side was kind of the most defendable location for DeMu, and he didn't try to take it, right? Like, it felt a little bit weird. After the spin peeled away, I thought he'd walk out, wall off. He eventually ended up there, but I think it was too late. You mentioned that stage in the game, it was some like 8 or 9 worker kills already, which is just insane when you consider how valuable each Order of the Dragon villager is. But credit to him, man. I mentioned MeomaikA is an aggressive player. He never lets go. And it pays off this time with one of the most aggressive civs. So good signs of life for him. DeMu definitely not dead just yet, right? We've still got potentially 2 more games in this series. And I think we do have some maps that still offer up favorability to a more defensive angle of play.
Do we?
I think so. Trying to remember what we actually got now. So we had Dry Arabia already. Game 1 was Himayama. Himayama was one of the more exposed maps. Did they draft Hill and Dale?
We have Hill and Dale and Gorge, yes. So
okay, yeah.
One that's still rather open, and then one that's very well defensible.
Yeah, so Hill and
Dale.
If
you're DeMu, I think you go Hill and Dale.
Yeah, and you know that can thin the herd. It depends on the draft selection, like what maps you've got left in conjunction with what civs you got left. Because if you can see your opponent has a very linear line, you can try to bait him. But you know, MeomaikA right now has to be rolling his eyes and thinking, you know, I'll try and end it in Hill and Dale. But reality check, if we go to Gorge, if you have one of those more aggressive civs, like a French one, you know, you can kind of just send it into your opponent quite rapidly.
Yeah, I just wonder what the mindset is going to be here for DeMu. Because from one perspective, you could say, okay, it's match point for my opponent. I need to bring out Hill and Dale because that's probably the map where I feel more comfortable against this playstyle. But at the same time, you have to win both of these games. So maybe DeMu is going to be like, okay, let's bring on Gorge first. And if I have to really play a decider game, then let's have it on a map that I feel more confident about.
We're only a minute away from finding out how Game 4 could go. Yuji versus Ayabit. Yeah, so we're going to Gorge. And that leaves... okay, that makes sense, actually. It leaves them Chinese/Ottomans against French Jean.
French. So, French or French?
French or worse French, you know?
I love DeMu's final civ combo against what MeomaikA has for Hill and Dale.
Yeah.
If you're MeomaikA, you need to finish this series right here. Because if DeMu takes you to the decider game, I think DeMu has a huge advantage.
But would he play Ottomans?
I don't think it matters. Frankly, I don't think it matters if he plays Ottomans or Chinese because I love either of those against French or Jeanne d'Arc.
I mean, if you can reach Castle Age, right, Otto's feels really good because you start getting Janissaries. But, like, China is a weird one as well. Like, China sucks in very long feudals against French because French scales their eco too. And the whole idea is when you get loads of knights and you get loads of Jugunu, the knights can just take turns tanking the Jugunu shots. So, like, the archer's the MVP for the French, right? So, you know, you don't really want to play a long age, but I've seen Chinese just bypass that age issue altogether. Just open with Spears Horseman, go fast castle. But you know what? Let's focus on what's ahead of us. We head into Gorge, this deep ravine, this deep valley, to see if DeMu can force a deciding game number 5 here. MeomaikA leads, Ayabid pick coming out, but DeMu, channeling his inner balls, has gone to the Bald Boy Civ. It's Yuji time.
This is an interesting choice from DeMu. He is one loss away from being eliminated from the tournament. At the same time, as we talked in the pregame, if he takes this to the game number 5, I think he's starting with a huge advantage. Every single game, MeomaikA has been the aggressor, and DeMu had some success defending, especially in game number 2, and some of the other games he did not. Hill and Dale, game number 5, with the civilizations that are still available, that should be a huge advantage for DeMu. He could have gone to Hill and Dale in this game, but I feel like he just didn't want to make or play a decider on a map like Gorge. So for DeMu, this is really all about, if I can secure this game, I have a really good shot at winning this series. But this map in particular might play into the hands of MeomaikA in terms of playstyles.
I'm sure DeMu's like, man, I don't want to do that to people. We don't need a 2-hour game just me to then lose. So though we're gonna make it possible that it would win me the series. Because like let's be totally real, Hillendale is that game that definitely favors defenders a lot of the time, and it is the type of map that can drag the latest average game length. Like I think any map we have here in rotation. But yeah, let's talk about the Ayus a little bit. You know, a very kind of awkward matchup for them. Ayubas usually like to open with a little bit of pressure. Not great against Yuji because of the potential for Shiganu. The thing that might give you a semblance of pressure point, though, is that Yuji are going to be looking for pro scouts here. Really good spawn for them to optimally drag the deer back, both being on the east side. And also, I'm looking to see if we've got any good meditation gardens here. I think there's an okay-ish one maybe on the east, but nothing crazy here. It might be the 8 stack of berries. So yeah, he just plays it safe. He's going to get the gold, berries, and the stone. Stone's really nice here because by the time you get into Castle Age and you've got all the relics, you know, you're close to basically having the stone for a TC drop if that's the play you're looking for.
Not the best meditation gardens ever, but it's probably the best that you can get on a map like this.
It's fine, right? Like it's 25 gold, 25 stone, 36 food. Yeah. So it's 86 resources.
I do want to say though, this landmark creates a nice little choke point at the front of the Moose base, and I think that's going to be a big factor. One thing I've noticed in terms of differences between this game, or between the previous game and game number 2, is that DeMu... Oh, wow.
I don't care what you have to say now, Lidicor. I want to talk about this.
Wow, that's an interesting start here for MeomaikA. Now,
is this the proxy-based builds? I've seen this from a few players.
I think so.
Yeah, like you rush your villager full, but he hasn't moved one yet, right? So if this is like double archer range, you want to be building them near your opponent. He hasn't, though.
Yeah. Most of the time when you see this choice on the House of Wisdom, you see it because you want to have a huge influx of wood that you will turn into TCs. But knowing MeomaikA's playstyle, there's no way we're seeing town centers here. So the question is, what is he going to spend a bunch of wood on? Makes a lot of sense to think that it's going to be some sort of a proxy buildup or production buildings of some sort, that is for sure.
Yeah, but he's late then because he's got Wheelbarrow coming in now, but that means you're going to have to wait, like, we're almost a minute into your tech timing to do anything with that extra wood. And so the whole idea of, like, 2TC, I don't think the 2TC works with Industry Wing. Like, I think it's terrible in the current meta. Like, you know, 2TC sucks.
It's actually more common. You see this with the Castle Age up, and you get 2 TCs for that. But the point is, this is the most common time you see this extra influx of wood being chosen for the age up.
Wait.
And it's just going to be double stables?
He doing what I think he's doing? Is this the Mass Desert Raider build?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Could this be full Desert Raiders?
But
that would be terrible against Jugenu.
It's really bad against Shiganu. It's really good against the Horseman timing because the whole idea is like the weakness of Desert Raider scaling is it takes 35 seconds, same as like Camel Archers, right? But there you go.
It's not a good frontline unit either.
He's balancing though. He's got Horseman plus Desert Raiders, so this is a little bit better.
Fair.
And this is his idea for how he stops Pro Scouts because you can already see by DeMu's macro like that this is very clearly heading towards Pro Scouts. Obviously, from the scouts alone, it gives it away. So. You know, with that in mind, he should be able to maybe block the second deer retrieval. But I'm always very reluctant about these type of plays. Like stopping the second deer retrieval means you've let one group of say 5 scouts through. 5 scouts getting through is still, what is that, 1,750 food for your opponent safely underneath the TC. That's a crazy amount of food to work with.
I think the trick here for MeomaikA is that he won't be able to take direct fights for an extended period of time against Jugenu. Like, short. DeMu doesn't have a lot right now, and DeMu actually opens stable, which will delay any kind of a Jugenu buildup. But once DeMu starts getting Jugenu out, this composition is not going to be able to dive DeMu's base. And remember, it's one thing that MeomaikA contains his opponent. Eventually, he needs to get some sort of a massive advantage from this huge commitment to army, because right now he's committing very heavily into his army.
Yeah. I mean, archers can come in quite delayed here for DeMu, right? Like, you can just go for, like, the double archer range build. Supervise if you're really desperate. If not, you can actually just get a blacksmith instead, right? Because you can supervise Steeled Arrow. So, you know, I think his timing is fine here. But MeomaikA, this is wild. MeomaikA, the tricky thing here is, like, you know, there is a little bit of a weird behavior with animation canceling, and obviously you're not meant to do it. And it's against the rules. But it's like... As a result, you have to be extra careful. So why I think a lot of players have actually been reluctant about doing like mass Desert Raider builds is, you know, at what point have I crossed the line? At what point am I in breach?
I think now things are getting dicey for MeomaikA, though. Because, look at this. DeMu is already massing Jugenu from double ranges. Jugenu are not particularly pricey. At the same time, as you said, Desert Raiders will take a long time to build up. And Horsemen will be fine as long as you don't get to the critical mass of Jugenu, which, when you have double ranges plus Jushi buffing them, it doesn't actually take a long time for them to get to that critical mass to start essentially one-shotting Horsemen.
Shug already arriving. I don't know, man. This is... He has got Horseman coming, so like in theory this can be good. What could be sick for DeMu though? Like it's a slept-on tech, but this might be the perfect game for it. Is the new Deli horses that gives attack speed to Juji.
Could be considered. For now, he's actually making a mix of Horsemen and Jugenu. But you really feel like the Horsemen are just essentially a tanking unit right here. With the Desert Raiders in the mix, they're not going to have substantial combat value. Nice micro by MeomaikA, kind of trying to stretch the attention of the opponent. And DeMu already lost one villager on this gold mine. A second one almost fell. Right now, you kind of have this play from MeomaikA where he's poking on the right side and poking on the front. And he's just trying to stretch out the attention of DeMu because DeMu has a much slower response to that with the slow-moving Jugenu.
The tricky part, though, is like he has a very easy play to just go east, right? Because both deer stacks are on that side. That's the weird thing about this type of strategy. Like, in theory, very good, but like in practice, this type of spawn, incredibly hard to execute for MeomaikA.
Oh, yeah, he needs a perfect micro for this. One slip-up, and he's going to lose the game. But remember, he's on match point. And he's just so good when it comes to micro. If he micros this correctly, he could potentially steal the series right here.
Shug just targeting the back line, though. They kind of just ignore the Horsemen, right? He's holding back the primary wave. Yeah, but like, the Horsemen are just wasting MeomaikA's time. He needs to actually be on the unit he's countering here. He also doesn't have undermesh because he's really trying to get towards castle. So like this wasn't that bad of an exchange because MeomaikA, he done that classic blunder that we see almost every RB player do. They don't like building blacksmiths. It doesn't feel like there's a good build order for it. So against the Jugenu, that's a cardinal sin.
I don't understand MeomaikA's idea here. If you want to rush castle, I think you want to retain this army and just, again, use your mobility to stretch out DeMu's attention. You don't want to fight. At the same time, if you don't want to go to castle, just double down on this aggression, take a fight, and see where it goes. I think this time around, the exact thing happened that DeMu wanted. DeMu wants a direct fight because the Jugenu will absolutely slaughter all these expensive Desert Raiders.
Yeah, things are getting worrisome because at this rate, DeMu could like just catch up on the tech up and even go and do some damage. So you can see MeomaikA is about to trigger his tech, but look at DeMu's resources, right? Like after this fight, if he doesn't see a lot more horsemen, he knows what's really happening. And we've just seen how aggressive Jushi's timings are. They get the 15% discount on age up, and then they build it ridiculously fast. And okay, dude, he's played way too many team games. This is a team game strat.
Yeah, I think DeMu by now knows fully well that this is going to be a Castle Age timing, and it's likely going to be Camel Lancers. You do have double stables ready already, so nice little sneak by DeMu, getting a couple of carcasses in. Really, if you're MeomaikA, you need to slow this down. If DeMu has access to gold, if he can continuously fearing carcasses, your chances will just not be great. Camel Lancers are expensive, and if you don't have any support units to them, DeMu can just deal with them using Spearmen initially.
I mean, DeMu, it just looks pretty cozy right now. You know, the idea of what MeomaikA was doing here was cool, but it just doesn't feel like he actually locked enough food from getting home. And now he's in a reluctant position. Horseman also able to shuffle over onto the workers. We'll force a bit of idle time there. MeomaikA is about, what, 40 seconds out from the tech up complete? DeMu, meanwhile, hasn't really focused on that timing. He's actually scaling even more juke here.
I think he is going to go for the timing, but I also think that he senses an opportunity. The timing is going to be near perfect. You're going to hit your opponent just when he reaches Castle Age. But at the same time, DeMu doesn't want to go all in here because he's afraid of Camel Lancers. It's a great opportunity to, worst case scenario, trade armies, get a couple of villager picks, but DeMu is going to be up to Castle Age soon as well. Yeah,
and DeMu knows it's a tech up for sure. It's kind of obvious at this stage. Even if he doesn't see gold workers, that's because MeomaikA preemptively took the gold necessary. Problem now is getting the units out quick enough, and oh, I mean that.
If you have to do a farm transition just now, you might have just lost the game, because this is the window where MeomaikA needs to hit timings. He cannot have food shortages, because then he cannot get the camo lancers out in time. If you have to make a full front transition right now, it's disastrous for MeomaikA.
Good news, at least for MeomaikA, is DeMu hasn't got all the deer, right? Like, he's taking his safe stacks now.
Fair.
MeomaikA, as a result, has his own to munch on. But Shaolin Monastery is now being rushed up by 14. MeomaikA can't even risk coming out, right? Like, if you check his vision, we can see everything. So he'd be like, why is MeomaikA not close to the base? For all he knows, DeMu isn't necessarily attacking up straight away. He's getting ready to dive you. So you have to play ultra defensive until the first Lancers and your veterancies come through.
And MeomaikA doesn't have a scout. DeMu actually has multiple scouts out there. So DeMu knows fully well that there is nothing coming towards his base. At the same time, MeomaikA had no idea. MeomaikA is so deprived of vision that he just now realizes that there is no one in front of his base. He's got the camo lancers out now, but by the time he arrives to the opposing side of the map, you're going to start seeing the veterancy come in for Jugenu, you're going to start seeing crossbows come in, and it's going to be increasingly difficult for MeomaikA to breach this defense.
Veterancy only just a few seconds away, so MeomaikA making the right choice not to go in. We'll just back away. What he needs to be looking for now is the Dervish timing. The first Shallow Monk's already out. You know, the real objective for both players now is Relic grab. For MeomaikA, I don't think we've seen him drop a mosque yet.
No, I don't think so either. I think he's a little strained on resources right now. Remember, he had to start dropping farms, so this is a commitment he had to make. He actually dropped the blacksmith, but techs aren't coming in just yet, so he's actually quite a bit behind in terms of blacksmith techs on all his troops, and it's getting worrisome for him. DeMu is actually outnumbering him 3-1. The one saving grace he does have is mobility, and he needs to leverage that. He needs to start stretching the attention of DeMu. Try to intercept the monks as well, but more importantly, try to hit the eco and just force DeMu to chase you all across the map.
The worry I have right now is DeMu. Has he got relics on the way home? I think he has, right? He's at least picked up one. Looking at where MeomaikA is positioning, he's kind of just going to one location at a time. So these monks are starting to sneak out. Relics are coming home. It doesn't feel like the containment protocol is really working. And I think matters worse, DeMu's even snatching additional goodies from your side of the map.
And remember, MeomaikA doesn't have a lot of farms. So when he depletes that one pack of deer he still has, things will get very troublesome. Shaolin Monk will get sniped over here, Novololo coming together. But at the very least, now DeMu knows where that army is. He just now started mixing in crossbows, though. So he's been actually rather slow in that regard. He does have a full force of Jugenu, but he's actually facing quite a lot of horsemen and camel lancers. Needs to be careful not to get caught in the middle of the map.
Lance is definitely a curious thing from DeMu. In theory, Deli horses, you can kind of not care about camels to a certain degree. I guess he just wants one or two to raid with. We do have mass racks, so you'll likely be seeing some spearmen getting added in, considering the amount of lancers. Also good for a PG switch, kind of just a pseudo-raider unit. MeomaikA just doing a very good job of skirting this fragile state of the game. He knows he can't really commit to a main fight. As soon as I say doing a good job, he actually does just run straight through the Jugenu.
A lot of his horsemen are badly beaten up. And now DeMu is making a pivot into spearmen, and that could be disastrous for MeomaikA. He's actually making very expensive units, and he doesn't have the strongest of economies. So making full tech switches will be challenging for him. If DeMu starts flooding spearmen with the Jushi, it's going to be difficult for MeomaikA to respond to that in a short amount of time.
It's a very brave Lancer. We'll at least be able to push them away a little bit. But yeah, DeMu really just starting to get to the stage where he's likely going to have to take risks on economy to a certain degree. You know, there's only so much deer left to hoover up. If we start seeing him going up with the flanks of berries, without walls, MeomaikA is going to feel like it's Christmas. So DeMu, before that point arrives, is going to try to force full defense from a full cav comp.
Army count is 2-1 right now for DeMu, but the army value is neck and neck. So it's really about the quantity versus quality setup right here. And MeomaikA might have enough to hold this. One key thing here is that DeMu has a slow-moving army. And we've seen that in game number 1. If he gets caught mid-map with a slow-moving army, MeomaikA is really good when it comes to exploiting that.
This boy's a pain in the ass with these Desert Raiders. You at least have more relics coming home, so that's not going to be free. I can't believe with this map control, MeomaikA has never tried to go for relics himself.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder if he was just like, okay, I was, you know, I didn't have the map control when we hit Castle Age. maybe my opponent already collected the relics and he kind of just gave up on the whole thing, or maybe he was just too busy microing his troops. I don't know, but you're right. He didn't actually go for any of the relics.
And now we finally actually have Veteran Seaver Horseman. The weird part is he's done it after the Swimman transition came in. And it almost feels like we're reaching a stage where MeomaikA is not quite sure what the next move is meant to be.
And here's the problem. He's got a lot of mobility, but I think DeMu's playing it smart. DeMu is just waiting for his opponent to make a move, because DeMu is sitting on the majority of the relics. He's got the Jushi economy as well. And at the end of the day, he doesn't want to be the aggressor in this series. We talked about this numerous times. He just wants MeomaikA to commit. And the moment MeomaikA commits, he gets slaughtered. His army is not good enough to push into DeMu's base against that composition.
You remember when we had the LHGG game where, like, all you have to do is sit here, pagoda up, and let them come to you? It's that again.
Exactly.
He's got a 4th relic on the way home, by the way.
Exactly.
It's easy peasy. And now we see the chef's kiss, right? The Nestor Bee's getting added in.
MeomaikA still doesn't have a scout, by the way. He's actually very short on vision.
Lancers see pretty far, right? If you check his vision, Lancers are kind of surprising for their ability to see for melee in it. Lancer on the backside.
It's a little weird, though, because he really doesn't see that far away. So
no, if we look at MeomaikA's vision, oh, there's the bees. There's a Finn frontline spearman.
Yeah,
the Knobs
nice
really want to be going after the Desert Raiders here. If you hit that back line, it should be able to support. But instead, it seems like he's more focused on just getting rid of the Horseman Lancers. And he finally
it's way too many
over.
crossbows, though. It's way too many crossbows, and all the Camel Lancers are now gone.
Yeah, this is starting to look over. This is looking cooked. DeMu even has the stone necessary for a keep. The things get a little bit too desperate. He just stands his ground in staggered formation, and he will force a Game 5 decider against the Vietnamese Rising Star.
And we talked about this, KP. If DeMu wins this game, he's going to have a perfect setup for game number 5. He rolled the dice a little. He said, okay, this is the more concerning maps of the remaining 2. But I'm just going to play it here. If I lose, I lose. I'm out of the tournament. But if I win, I'm going into the decider game with a substantial advantage. Throughout this whole series, he has been the defender and MeomaikA has been the aggressor. And this series will be decided on Hill and Dale. There aren't very many more well-defensible maps compared to Hill and Dale. And it's going to be China versus the Jean d'Arc. So we might just see a very similar setup then compared to what we had in this map.
Yeah, this might end up being the quickest game of the series, to be honest with you. Jean, if you don't do something very swiftly in this game, it's almost just curtains closed. You know, maybe we see something like Chamber of Commerce because China isn't known for their aggression, but with the Pro Scouts builds they've been going for, I think you're going to get sniffed out a bit too quick. Let's head into Game 5 decider here on the most defensive map we have in this series, where DeMu's defensive strategies have led to substantial victories. Can MeomaikA bust him with another one of his comfort picks in the Jean? Or is DeMu going to look too cozy on what at one point looked like his main civ, the Chinese?
And just looking back at the previous game here, the one that DeMu just won on Gorge, he had the Jushi there, and the setup was so simple. It was a matter of just waiting and waiting and waiting until MeomaikA runs out of patience and starts pushing into your base. Of course, DeMu, in order to make that happen, had to be really active in terms of bringing in extra food, securing all the relics. So expect that to happen right here as well. But I would be shocked if DeMu was the aggressor in this game whatsoever. Now, when you look at MeomaikA, on the other hand, one thing that we shouldn't forget about is that resources on that little well-defensible hilltop are quite limited. So MeomaikA could try to play a similar game to the Four Legs game, where he was very active denying resources and just trying to make sure that DeMu cannot really access a lot of resources at a time.
Tricky part is the opener. You need to make sure DeMu doesn't get a lot of sheep here, otherwise he will just camp on that high ground long enough. The thing that makes China probably the most obnoxious civ in my eyes on this map is while other civs you can argue, yeah, they've got limited resources, you know, they're going to run out quickly. Well, China, yes, it's limited, but it's 20% more than the limit of everyone else, right? Like, it's one of the more obnoxious things about China that when you dig deep and think about it conceptually as a civ buff, makes them kind of more broken than most, right? Like HRE, 40% gathering sounds nuts, right? But I'm getting through my safety 40% quicker. With China, I'm extending my safe resources by 20%. So, you know, if there's a Civ that can kind of get away with it, if you get enough sheep, you're not going to see DeMu necessarily with urgency rush off the high ground.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's going to come down to how much reserves you have, in essence. The gold and the wood lines are both to the front, though, for DeMu, and that could be a bit of a concern for him. Imperial Academy coming in just now. I would not be surprised if we saw an early Barbican towards the front of his base, though, because he really needs that level of safety just to have something in front of his key resources for the initial portion of the game.
Yeah, well, you start off just by poor man barbicaning, right? Like an outpost does the same. In fact, if you look at his spawn, DeMu got an incredibly favorable wood spawn here. They all bridge the front of his base, so if he just goes for like 2 small walls, there's no quick breach point for a Jean player at all. I mean, backside's still exposed, right? But like, I think the interesting thing here is you could probably just Barbican the south side to get the stone covered, and then quick wall the east side, right? And then DeMu's just hunkered in. At which stage, like, what is your move as Jean? I guess you could rush Castle Age. Not really the best Civ for rushing Castle. It's not like French where you get extra villages. In fact, do you know what your big reward is for getting Feudal Age, Lidical? You get to go -1 villager.
Well, for now, it's just the classic Dark Age build here for Jean. And on the other side, DeMu started pushing into Deer. It's actually going to be a nice and easy push for him. He's going to have the mill situate towards the back. And just looking at DeMu's base, it looks like he actually got the majority of the sheep on this map. So he's going to have a lot of reserve food to work with.
Yeah, and you know the interesting thing, he just gets the Deer shove right. Obviously has the efficiency on the mill here. So it'd be nice for MeomaikA to intercept, but instead... All right, that was overly ambitious. Like, especially considering... I get the thought process from Meo is like, oh yeah, he's out in the mill. He won't be able to just dive into the TC, but that was incredibly overzealous. Now it's kind of risky because, like, you know, MeomaikA, you're going to be blind punting in with your first night. This is where things like Outpost can really surprise you, and wouldn't be surprised if DeMu goes for it. Instead, for the time being, he opts for the village. Really smart play here. It just gives you a safety point that no small count of knights is going to be able to breach.
Yeah, it's a nice and tight base for the time being. And again, I'm curious how MeomaikA is going to approach this, because it's very clear how DeMu is going to play this game. I just do not know how MeomaikA intends to break that defense.
Yeah, it's a conundrum. I'm scratching my head because the reality is, even if this had been Ottomans, it wouldn't have been any better, right? Like we've seen, if you remember when Jean first came out in a tournament, we had like Ottoman versus Jean on, I think it's Himeyama. That was one of the most demoralizing Jean games I've ever watched. I think it was maybe Mr. versus Marine Lord or something like that. And he just built one outpost and the whole Jean plan was countered, right? Like, how is this really any different? You got a Barbican down, you've already got a village to protect the gold. Even if you get pushed off gold, this is the absurdity. Ever since China got the Imperial Academy buffed, that's enough gold, right? You can just tax your way to heaven.
As Jean comes in, as we speak, it's going to be the Archer variant.
Oops.
Means that you can harass the... Oh, that's a nice snipe. It's a beautiful snipe by MeomaikA.
Yeah, I wasn't quite ready for that. So well played, getting close enough to get that double strike out. 2 knights already in the field. I'm not sure if like scaling knights is the way here. You're probably going to want to try to prep archers so you can get into a ram timing. The other worry now is like your opponent can just kind of opt to play very defensive into Juke. And with the Barbican effect, all of a sudden, you know, you feel worse than you would have before, realizing you don't have the faster producing TC as Jean. Now it's even worse. Your opponent has essentially taken the perk that you would have thought the French variant Civ would have.
Yeah, for now, MeomaikA is just torching down at one village out there. But one little highlight here, KP. MeomaikA actually went for quite a few early eco decks here. Mining also coming in, Wheelbarrow, the food upgrade. So he does have an okay-ish eco for a player that's only on 24 vills. And now he's looking to get some freebies on these villagers out here. He doesn't have a line of sight to fire arrows, though.
Man, Jean just takes a shot to the face like a champ, right? Like, bulletproof Jean is what I'm getting out of this. Like, it's kind of crazy because it would take, what, 10 shots?
She's bulletproof, not fireproof, though.
True, true. That's her weakness. She was just ahead of her time, let it call. If she'd been born in the 18th century, no one could have killed her.
Anyway, one thing to highlight here is that MeomaikA doesn't have a scout right now. So he's actually deprived of vision, and Knights don't have great line of sight. And because you don't have that extra scout, Jean cannot just fire over the forest either.
I was just thinking, you'd think with fire being a weakness, Byzantines would be the ultimate counter.
No, I was just going to say you should have played it on water maps.
That's true. But yeah, but once again, Byzantines. You know, just
Fair.
maybe that's the buff we need on the flamethrower boats. Just give them like +5 damage against Jean. By the way,
Anyway.
I love the fact, like, can we just go to MeomaikA's base? Because I'm pretty sure that's a diamond statue.
That's a diamond ram, okay?
What a champ, man. He's like, I'm going to take the loss in this season because I really want the diamonds. Diamonds are forever. Like, and by the way, this is legit. So MeomaikA season 1 was a diamond 1. Season 3 was a diamond 3. In season 5, like, he could actually switch to a gold ram, by the way. He actually, in season 5, was gold ranked.
Anyway, for the time being, it's just Knights for him, plus Jean. He actually wants to go into castle here. This is just a little pressure being put on DeMu. And here's where it gets interesting. He's actually trying to replicate what he has done in the Four Lakes game. Gold denial. DeMu, his only source of gold right now is taxing. And that guarantees that MeomaikA beats him to Castle Age. That is the plan here for MeomaikA. He has taken away the only gold that DeMu had access to. And that's one of the reasons why being aggressive on this map could actually work out. You don't really have good fallback options when it comes to gold mines.
This is getting a bit weird from DeMu. I think this is an overreaction to the play. Like, it's almost like it's assumed Jean is going to go all in feudal. It's the only reason you want to build Duke Spears. Like, you know, this matchup kind of breaks you a little bit in that if you mass Duke, mass Spears, and your opponent masses Archer, masses Knights, you know, the healing factor of Chivalry lets them over time win. So really surprising. For DeMu to justify this play, he has to come out. My worry now is the moment he sees the tech up, he's not going to leave his base.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you look at how this series went so far, every single time DeMu was able to build some sort of an economical advantage, like having the majority of the relics or just having a powerful economy of the brews, it forced MeomaikA to go into his base and attack, and those didn't work out. Now this time around, if MeomaikA beats his opponent to Castle Age and says, okay, I'm just going to secure the majority of the relics, I'm going to have the majority of the map under my control, that's a whole different story. Castle Age is going to come in for MeomaikA though, and I feel like, I don't know about this Roll Institute. If you want to go roll Bloodlines, it's an awfully expensive technology for a player that's only on 34 villagers at minute 10. You see, MeomaikA simply cannot afford those upgrades, and he has now invested a bunch of resources going into Castle. I'm actually surprised DeMu isn't really punishing him for that. 15 Spearman, 15 Jugenu is enough to counterattack this.
The problem is your timing is kind of late now, right? Like, there could be some archers waiting for you, and then also the veterancy for Knights kicks in really fast. But because DeMu isn't doing anything, all MeomaikA knows to do is run around the map with Jean, get 50 XP per Sacred Site, and then I'd say you just rush Monastery here. Like, I don't know, MeomaikA has this obsession with doing these type of builds. Like, I've seen his mass Jugenu rush. When he plays Jean, he just wants to clump Knights and not add anything else. But at this stage, just rushing relics is the winning play.
Yes, 100%. I think here you gotta go for those relics and force DeMu to be the attacker, which hasn't really happened in any of these games so far. Just force him out of his base. The Knights bumped into walls to the south as DeMu is also looking to get up the Castle Age, though. It's very worrisome that MeomaikA is still just making Knights. It's an expensive investment. He's just not getting veterancy for these Knights. Royal Bloodlines nowhere to be seen. He simply doesn't have the economy for this. And if DeMu gets to Castle Age and he gets to crossbows, if he gets to veterancy on these Spearmen and Jugenu, there isn't really very many things that MeomaikA can do against that composition.
Love the Imperial Palace choice as well. Just allows you to see everything around your base. You'll see it when it goes up. The vision it gives is absurd. Another crazy thing about it, sometimes still kind of baffles me, is for how much vision it gives, it's not hampered by things like tree lines. It will just punt out its vision and see pretty much all the way to the Sacred Site.
Yes, I absolutely love the Imperial Palace.
All right, watch this. Here we go.
Talk
What
about a
is
way to prevent
vision?
raids. And more importantly, it allows you to spot enemy villagers with the active ability of this landmark. So you can actually find little pockets of economies. Did MeomaikA ever leave his base? If so, you're going to get an opportunity to hit those little pockets. Now, DeMu doesn't really have a highly mobile unit that can do that just yet, but the opportunity will always be there to just find where your opponent is hiding.
And the other interesting thing about Imperial Palace here is like there is a chance that a Jean player goes trade on this map, right? But now you could scout that. So like, you know, you can just press the button and go, okay, no trade. I'm chill. So DeMu can just focus on getting his counters going. He's now scaling to crossbows. Crossbow speeds is just your bread and butter here. Because MeomaikA is just doing the most A-click Deli build possible. Used to call it the Zertin build, right? I like knights. Only knights. You know, it's like the person who will only buy Batman comics. None of the others.
It's going to be knights with royal bloodlines, so they're almost Imperial Age units, but then again, you simply cannot fight into hard counter units like that. 20 spearmen, a gazillion crossbows, and Jugen on the backline, they will make mincemeat out of you. And one thing to highlight here, MeomaikA isn't going for the relics, which I think is a huge oversight. As you said, you want to force DeMu out of your base. Remember, DeMu actually has an 11 eco lead right now. And sure, you have the sacred sites, but relics would just give such a massive boost here to MeomaikA's economy.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, he's at least getting a lot of gold off the sacred sites, but it's just ridiculous that you could double it with the relic pool. I mean, DeMu at this rate probably isn't going to get relics because his assumption should be, oh, Meo took all of them. When he sees the post-game, because I got a feeling that the post-game, no relics would have been picked up. When he sees the post-game and there's still 5 relics on the map, he's going to be scratching his head so hard, you'll be able to see a red rash on his head on Monday. It'll be ridiculous. Like, it doesn't make sense here.
It does not. I feel like MeomaikA is, I think, a little too focused on doing one thing. I think he just decided, okay, I want to play knights, and that's going to be it. But it might be a little short-sighted in a decider game like this. And let's not forget, every single game where DeMu was allowed to just chill and, build up back at home, he won those games. The games that MeomaikA was able to win were the ones where he was the active aggressor.
He just lost the sacred site. It just got decapped on the south. I can't believe that.
Oh, man.
But wait, more XP for sure? No, that was the win condition.
Yeah, little details make the mile, right? Like, if you started collecting relics, you would have a nice influx of resources now, or nice influx of extra gold. If you hold all those sacred sites, you actually put DeMu on a timer. And now DeMu is actually mining stone like a madman. He needs to break out of his base very soon. And I don't know, like, I think the big concern for DeMu right now is gold. There aren't very many gold mines that he can simply sneak out to. I think he needs to fight for gold here. I think he might just be waiting and saying, okay, I know that DeMu is going to run out of resources eventually. And he's just waiting. Like, I think he's trying to force DeMu's hand in a way. A couple of things to note, though. He's actually short on production. He's got 10 knights in queue. If you want to play 4 knights, you want to have enough production to actually mass produce them. There's a big difference between having 34 knights on the field and having 42, 43. So he's actually bottlenecked on production, which is not ideal. And second, he doesn't have good line of sight. And for all he knows, DeMu might have already snuck out, and that's actually the case. DeMu is slowly creeping out of his base, and he's not really getting punished for it.
No, and now he has 10 more minutes to work with, and is already up 15 villagers. It's getting a little bit out of hand here. You know, obviously he starts to make that uncomfortable farm transition, but it feels like this game should have ended before DeMu could make that transition. Now, yeah, he could have it complete by, say, what, 3 minutes left on the clock? Maybe less.
And if this keep goes up, it just gets so much more difficult for MeomaikA.
It's like, wait a sec, there's still relics? Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Don't mind me, just gonna get some more gold in my pocket.
I just don't understand the game plan for MeomaikA here. Like, what is your win condition? What's the game plan? Because he's not starving DeMu out of resources. He hasn't really been very active probing the walls or seeing if there are any units outside of DeMu's base. He's also not, going Imperial, making a tech switch. I just don't see what the game plan is. And I think DeMu is actually leveraging that. DeMu is saying, okay, I know you're making knights, and I'm just going to do whatever needs to be done to deal with knights. Now, make no mistake, 44 royal knights with royal bloodlines is absolutely no joke. It's the level of force that could just break through DeMu's front wall and run into the enemy base. But it looks like blacksmith upgrades are severely lacking.
I'm starting to think the plan here for MeomaikA is hope that next time Hillendale isn't in rotation. Like, this is getting a little bit too defensive at this stage. I mean, DeMu is starting to shuffle out. The decap is going to come through again. There is kind of that classic saying of crap will get off the pot. Because my worry at this rate is DeMu might just skirt into Imperial Age. And Elite Spearmen are going to be no joke here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he needs to, because right now, as much as he has the numbers advantage and as much as he has the counter units, mostly spearmen and crossbows, remember, these are Castle Age units, and MeomaikA has an Imperial Age tech in Royal Bloodlines. The army value is twice compared to his opponents. So, this is actually getting tricky, because I would dare to say that MeomaikA might be able to take a straight-up fight.
I just can't believe he's able to come out like this. I mean, when these stone walls go up, like, what? Okay, MeomaikA has realized relics are a thing. He's been convinced. We suddenly have 3 mobs.
Okay. Now, this is a thing, though. DeMu benefits a lot from this landmark, providing the vision, because he gets this early warning. But I was going to say that if MeomaikA sees that DeMu is to the south, he can just commit against these walls, and DeMu is very slow rotating. He's got such a slow army.
He needs more walls. His army is not going to be quick enough for this, especially the crossbow slowing him down. MeomaikA,
just die.
He's in.
Now, how long do you stay? How long do you stay? That's the question here.
Until
I don't think
they
landmark snipe
break.
is an option.
Dives in. Farms being hit. Look at any economy you can find. The problem is DeMu, if he comes too far out into his main base, like realistically, MeomaikA could go around both flanks. Are you kidding me? That was anticlimactic.
Okay, now MeomaikA is out of food, by the way. He is in the dire need of farm transition. He was down to 100 food per minute. I think he realized that he's lacking blacksmith upgrades. He just now started grabbing those. At the very least, he's now picking up relics. But at the same time, he allowed DeMu to get out of his base. DeMu has gotten so much extra time by getting those stone walls up. He gets a large gold vein, and he gets all the hunt to the south, a bunch of wood as well. And as you said, if DeMu gets to Imperial, which will happen soon, he's at 180 population. Next step is Imperial. When DeMu gets to Imperial, I think MeomaikA is toast.
I'm just stuck on that raid, man. It's like, let's get him. Let's go down there and mess them up. All right, lead the charge, Sean. Just kills one villager. We got him! We got him! We killed him! Run! Run! Get out of here! I just don't know what the point of that was.
Hear me out. If it wasn't for DeMu's expansion to the south, I think MeomaikA would be in an okay spot. He would be just playing resource starvation. But that's not the case. I think that's the big problem for MeomaikA here. Because DeMu now has enough safe resources to afford Imperial. That wasn't the case before. And now he's going to go Imperial. And because you have an imp army against essentially a semi-imp army from MeomaikA, that's going to start favoring DeMu. And DeMu also gets confirmation that MeomaikA is going only knights. It's 60 elite spearmen plus a bunch of crossbows. That's not something that you can stop with 70 elite knights either.
I mean, at this rate, we'll have enough gold still from taxation in the vein in the south to actually just rush EAT, which is the GG. And I think this, by the way, is what MeomaikA thought he was going to find. The farms that are now coming in the granary. Like, had that been there, had it been a mass granary transition when he dove in, massacre, right? We're probably talking about 15 villages plus dying. Now, we have quite the pickle. Now, one thing that is weird is this. DeMu is building the Great Wall Gatehouse to block the sacred site. Normally, this landmark goes on your farms.
I love the stone walls from DeMu on the flanks. Because now the knights cannot break into your base, and I think this is where things fall apart for MeomaikA. I was starting to wonder if he's waiting for DeMu to leave his base and just go for some janky landmark snipe or something. But it's not going to happen, because you have stone walls everywhere, except this one location.
No, it's fine. Shh. Just keep tapping little hammers. Other people running around and panicking, but you little villagers, between you and me, we know that there's no way they stop us building this.
And they're actually right.
Because, you know, the knights that would stop them building this are on vacation?
Okay, but hear me out, because MeomaikA wants to go into Imperial as well.
Uh-huh. You still haven't sold me on how he wins.
I'm starting to feel like we're actually getting into one of those scenarios where people just test units. It's like, what will 150 knights do against a gazillion spears and crossbows? And then, you know, upload this to YouTube with such a clickbaity title.
They're trying to
that's
fill
exactly
the
what's
gap,
happening.
the age of noob left in the scene. Smart. It's a smart content move. Crossbow's now on the wall.
Okay,
Congrats on that zero.
What if he goes for Boulder Quinn?
I mean, why not? Like, at this stage, why not? Screw it. Just, yep. Please, build a college of artillery. No, not that. It's gonna be Red Palace.
Nah. As a reminder, it's a tournament life on the line for both of these players.
Elite techs are coming in, by the way. They're ticking in just a few seconds. MeomaikA is trying to go for this round. He didn't even get the charge for the counter saddle. Divine Restoration gets pumped pretty early here. But there is the Elite tech. So Spearman upgraded. And the crossbow is just a few seconds behind in this. Incendiary Arrows is also getting supervised. So he will be able to get the Red Palace up. MeomaikA is going to lose a lot of knights for it, though.
He didn't even have the first melee defense upgrade from the blacksmith. That is sick. At the same time, somehow this weird mess that he created worked. There is now a Red Palace up. And by the way, there is 7 minutes on the Sacred Site timer.
Yeah, but he should be able to decap that at literally any point. Like the Great Wall Gatehouse, if a villager walks out and decaps that, you don't dive. So, because here's the thing, like, remember Nestaby's got nerfed? Great Wall Gatehouse somehow didn't. If you click on it, you'll see how high its damage is. Because Nestaby's is 6 with +2 against ranged. Meanwhile...
On a side note, can we just talk about the fact that the Red Palace just burned through a layer of stone walls in like 5 seconds?
And that is why of the trio OP. He's like, oh wow, that stone wall died quickly. Guess I better replace it with a wood wall.
Now, here's the thing. When you get to 200 population each, which is something that MeomaikA is still exceptionally far away from, but once you do, population becomes a resource. So one thing to highlight here is that DeMu's army is mostly like low-value troops, and a lot of them. Whereas MeomaikA has a gigantic horde of knights, and again, imagine how good that previous fight could have been for him if it wasn't for the fact that he's still severely lacking blacksmith upgrades.
I'm sorry, I'm just enjoying walls being destroyed by crossbows. I mean, it's not like the 15 knights are going to do anything else, right? And then we'll replace it with another wooden wall.
And apparently Jean is getting XP for that.
Wow. I mean, that's definitely going to get level 4 quickly, the 2 XP. So we do have siege
now
coming.
Knights.
However, remember that fight happened, there wasn't Incendiaries, and I don't think there was EAT. Elite Army Tactics, I believe, still hasn't been queued up. DeMu could definitely get it.
No, he's got Elite Army Tactics.
Okay. So yeah, he's kind of the step ahead of it, really, there, right? He's mirrored it out. Yeah, so he's got the extra melee armor, extra melee damage. The Sacred Site timer is still going, because why would you try to remove the win condition when you could remove the red passes? There we go.
There we go.
And I told you, one villager. There was no way you were going to stop this.
Without looking at the bottom left corner, how many relics does MeomaikA have?
I'm going to guess probably 1 or 2.
He's sitting at 2. DeMu is at 1 minute 26 in this game.
Now, DeMu kind of has an excuse. MeomaikA not so much.
Okay, as I'm saying that, he picked up another one, okay? So, slow and steady wins the race.
Nice, so by 32 minutes, it should be 4 relics. This is ridiculous.
I feel like MeomaikA just settled on an idea, and he is refusing to pivot away from it. He's like, I am going to die on this hill. I will play this series out with knights. And again, this is his tournament life on the line. Same goes for DeMu. Whoever loses this game is out of the tournament.
Yeah, it's kind of like the person who, they play AoE4 for the first time and they experience a Smurf playing French. I'm like, oh my god, Knights are OP. Look at these stats. And it's pretty much him just rolling with that idea. We have Clock Tower now on the way. That's going to be Yuan. And that's also going to be bulky Siege to try and deal with extra threats. And yeah, we're seeing how depressing it is trying to use a cannon to deal with the Great Wall Gatehouse.
Now, here's the thing, and this is where it gets interesting. DeMu is up to 200 pop, which is nice and cool. MeomaikA is at 170, but his army value is double that of his opponent. It's a gazillion crossbows and spearmen, but at the same time, 70 Royal Knights with full upgrades are absolute no pushover. Well, full upgrades is a little overstatement because MeomaikA is still taking his time with the blacksmith upgrades, but listen, this is not a pushover force, especially when you consider that you have Mangonels coming in as well.
That's true. Doesn't have adjustable crossbars though, right? And we do have hand cannoneers now getting added in by DeMu. Pyrotechnics is pretty good. The extra range is huge here. I mean, I know how this game should end.
But do you know how this game will end? Because
no, I didn't read the script this morning.
Call me crazy, but I'm starting to be a MeomaikA believer.
Is it the almost 3-digit night count that's maybe convincing you? It's quite a lot.
No, it's the 3 relics at the 28-minute mark.
Oh, you wait until he gets that 4th relic. We actually have flank attacks coming though. Yuan's been activated, and oh boy. Well, you needed a red palace to actually break through DeMu's walls. He only needs a handful of spears with movement speed.
Yeah, that's not gonna be enough knights.
It's gonna be tight.
At the same time, if you're DeMu, you gotta be cautious because one thing with these knights is that if they catch you off guard, they're just going to clean up the whole army here from DeMu.
Who cares? He's already got ability of spearmen to queue up afterwards.
No, I'm not talking about this army. I'm talking about the army in the middle, which is
the
about
ambitious
to face
ones
down
unguarded.
60 knights.
I mean, they've got like 5 spearmen there to defend them. I can't believe that. He just mopped, was that 20 workers? That was 20 workers just evaporating. No textiles.
Let's be honest. MeomaikA is not playing for workers here.
Because
at
now
this point,
he has more room for knights.
You're saying that ironically, but at this point, I'm starting to believe that that's actually the game plan. It's like, we're building this army of knights up, and at some point, I will right-click, and when that happens, I don't know how DeMu's gonna stop this. It feels like we're about to witness a Giga Hail Mary here.
Where's the mass Nesta beast? No, I'm not gonna go there.
We're at 90 KB.
You know, I like the idea of just DeMu in all his bold glory, standing on top of that stone wall that no longer can be destroyed by a castle. And you know, speaking out to his Chinese workers and his spearmen and going, many of you will die, but after enough of you have died, MeomaikA's knights will also be dead. Now, there will not be many Chinese people left at that point, but he can't do it forever.
Now, DeMu is out of gold. So, well, he has a decent gold bank, but he is out of mineable gold.
Who cares? Just more spears.
He's gonna have to make something happen. These are so suboptimal fights here for MeomaikA, but at the same time, DeMu, yeah, as the observers are showing to us, I'm not impressed about DeMu's army at this point, and as crazy as it sounds, all that MeomaikA needs is 1 giga push. If he can just waltz into the enemy base and wipe it out with the landmarks, it's game over. And frankly, the fact that DeMu has 100 villagers is a bit of a problem here in combination with the fact that he's got low tier units. He is actually deprived of population. That resource is just not there for him.
Yeah, but so far MeomaikA has been like that useless friend when your car breaks down. He's the one who's not pushing. He's just sitting inside the car, right? So, you know, you have faith in if he pushes. We've seen him really push once. He kills 1 worker.
But hear me out. We are at the top of a huge hill. He just pushes you a little, and you could just start rolling down hills with 100 miles an hour speed.
We do have Trebs now to try and address that south side. The Great Wall Gatehouse is being rushed up again. This doesn't feel like a rush. Oh, no.
It's looking grim. I'm not gonna lie. I think DeMu is in a precarious spot here. Knights are
guys.
freaking out a little.
Guys, please, just destroy the wall next to the Great Wall Gatehouse. Please. It's
I
a
think
lie.
MeomaikA is just
There's
trying
not an
to
open
bait him
gate.
out of his base, and it finally happens. This is the moment that MeomaikA is waiting for. 104 Knights, and he's 200 out of 200.
104 Dalmatian Knights. 104 Knights, and none of them can get through that gatehouse still, by the way. He needs to destroy the wall next.
Oh, man. At least the mangonels can start chipping away at the wheels.
Slowly but surely, he must be getting in here. This is so stupid.
There we go.
We have entry. It'd be a shame if someone stonewalled behind this.
DeMu actually benefits from losing villagers here because he needs population space to withstand that assault.
This may be the silliest way to win an Elimination Series I've cast in a long, long time.
I think MeomaikA is doing every single thing that's humanly possible that's not meant to be done in RTS games, and somehow he's winning.
He's like, well, he's doing every single thing possible to just not finish the game, but also still be in control of it.
It's not just not finishing the game, it's blacksmith upgrades were notoriously late. He was so slow gathering the relics. He conceded the sacred sites multiple times to like a villager or two. He's making a single type of unit directly into the counter units.
But he just
yet he's still
this,
somehow in a great spot.
But he's gonna re-wall the Great Wall Gatehouse. Like this entire sequence of the last 3 minutes is gonna be pointless. MeomaikA at this stage, man, are you like, do I want to queue more knights in case, or do I want more actual knights?
Listen, at this point, if you're MeomaikA, you queue like 30 more knights, and you then mass delete your villas and say, okay, boys, we go in.
So what's the threshold? Should we just queue up until we got 120 knights and then delete the rest and send it?
No, just like delete the villas, replace them with more knights. Just bank up some more resources. Now, it's actually fascinating to look at this matchup in a way because, again, it highlights the importance of late-game population. DeMu has a counter army to knights.
Yeah.
But a knight being one population is just so much more valuable than a spearman being one population.
And you know what the sad part is, Lytical? Because Springles get bonus damage against infantry, they can't solve this problem for you.
All right.
I mean, mathematically, like that
121.
it might be worth Springles here.
I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I think the only thing that's keeping DeMu alive right now is the fact that he's got stone walls and MeomaikA hasn't managed to figure out how to break through them.
He's like, why is the Great Wall Gatehouse not walkable? Why is this so hard to get through this thing? Yeah, you need to delete the wall around them. And even when he did, he didn't write in. I know why, right? The risk is like, oh, what if DeMu is actually Stonewall behind this and then Stonewall blocks me in? Right, that's a realistic possibility there. It could have been a trap. He could have got Akbar'd.
Uh-oh. Now this could be a trap here from the two sides, though finally the 120 Knights are willing to commit.
He's A-clicking the keep. He's not even committing into the army here.
He's gonna jump this, though. Finally, he commits. And it's only 12 Spearman KP. There's no front line to this.
Yes, but what there is walls. Many walls. It's not going to be able to match through.
Some of them being palisades.
We have Jean de Blast! Level 4 has somehow finally arrived. And yes, you are right. For some reason, there is a misnegotiation between territory and stonewalls here. So if MeomaikA just burns that teensy tiny piece of wood, he will be in.
Oh man, again, this is his tournament life on the line. He was 2-1 match point. DeMu takes it to Hill and Dale into a well defensible map. And we talked about this. How is MeomaikA going to change his playstyle? I don't think anyone expected to do this. I think he went against every single rule that you follow in RTSs. And he looks so close to making it into the next round.
you know, the company is on the verge of bankruptcy. Dad, we need to change the plan. We stay the course. Pony power. He's in. He's everywhere. And DeMu is about to be crushed by the one night strat.
It's still tough to push into this position, though, because remember, DeMu just lost a bunch of troops, so he can immediately replace them with a bunch of hand cannoneers. He replaced all the army he had with spearmen and hand cannoneers, and there is no second layer behind this for MeomaikA.
Is he trying to landmark snipe? There's so many of those. No.
I'm starting to wonder if he has to.
No.
Because he cannot fight into these choke points anymore. DeMu lost his initial army, but he replaced them with mass spears and hand cannoneers, and this is not a fight you want to take if you're MeomaikA.
What is your win condition?
You're breaking every rule in RTS gaming. Is he paying the price for it now?
He just lost over 50% of the knights. Look at all that yellow on the ground. Scoop it up, freeze it, and save it for the winter. There's plenty of meat to go around here. Mio, I don't know how you get back to 100. DeMu won't let you. He's gonna rush out here, and with you on, he will be able to chase your ass to the ends of the earth.
This series has been all about MeomaikA attacking and DeMu defending every single game. And DeMu said, okay, as long as you're not coming for me, I'm not gonna come for you. DeMu was sitting behind those walls for 40 minutes waiting for MeomaikA to make his move. And I'm starting to wonder if DeMu just said, okay, I'm going to throw away that army of crossbows. I have such a huge bank that I'm actually better off losing all those units and just replacing them with spears and hand cannoneers, and that's exactly what happened. MeomaikA was so stubborn on this one unit quote-unquote composition, and now he doesn't have the tools to fight into this. The age of bike and shot has arrived, and the age of knights is finally over.
Calling this a composition is like me getting a drum kit and hitting the one piece of the kit the same way for 40 minutes and calling it a symphony. It feels justifiable that this should have eventually failed.
It should have. At the same time, the spearmen are slowly being thinned out. Hand cannoneers are starting to lose that front line. DeMu needs a second layer behind this. I don't know if the sustainability is there for MeomaikA, however.
I think DeMu has the DACA.
Not enough for this.
There's no way. He's been drained to the bone. Hit dry, and now it sets in.
There we go.
3 hours of his life to die like this.
I'm not gonna lie, KP. If MeomaikA won this series like this, it would have looked so dumb because, again, he broke every single rule that you're not supposed to break. From the very beginnings, like late on blacksmith upgrades, the relics being delayed, and just slamming a single type of a unit against a hard counter composition for 30 minutes straight. It looked so weird, but it looks like DeMu know exactly what DeMu know exactly what he was planning to do with this. He just wanted to wait until those knights break into his base, and if it took 2 hours, it took 2 hours, but at the end of the day, he just waited, and finally got rewarded.
Unbelievable, but we have, I think, the expected outcome, just not really the expected path to get there. DeMu on the verge, almost being defeated, but he will pull it back 3-2. That means that he's going to be able to match up against Beastie tomorrow on stream. Going to be a really interesting set there. Beastie, you know, been questions about whether he can be the top dog anymore. DeMu, I think, in some ways has been on the rise. This series may put questions in people's minds in some ways, but I don't think you should look at it that way. I think this is more to MeomaikA's aggressiveness, his insanity. Like, it's kind of almost Vortex-esque in the way that he played some of these games.
I really don't have words about that play style, to be honest. I feel like he's the type of player that just sets his mind on something, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And fair enough, it almost worked. This has been a spectacular series. He definitely made DeMu run for his money. But at the same time, I think going forward from MeomaikA, he really needs to reevaluate just making small pivots. Like, I'm not saying that he needs to make gigantic tech switches or just like completely shake up his playstyle. But what we've seen, especially in the final game, that level of, you know, just being so locked in on a single strategy is something that top level players will find ways to exploit.
I think we are going to be able to get Ben on the line for like a quick little short interview here because I mean, you have to basically talk to a person after a series like this and see if they actually are still speaking in coherent English or if it's just turned into melty words that don't really exist. But crazy series all the same from both sides. I mean, MeomaikA, it's a player who's been needing to diversify his Civ ball a bit. I think we saw him leaning into a lot of comfort here. He's getting there. I think, give this man a year and you could easily see him just breaching the top echelons. I think he kind of proved that here today. I imagine he's got a lot of new fans after this absurd series against DeMu. But by the way, reminder, folks, I think we're now, what, 5 hours in and we still have 2 more series to go. Oh, and the Balancing Core one feels like one that could be close. If Corvinus is leveled up, the B Corvinus one could also go the distance. So yeah, still plenty to happen. Reminder, by the way, like MeomaikA has been incredible, but we will not be seeing any more of him. He is actually eliminated from EGC Masters Winters. But it's time to talk to the victor of this series, a man who had to experience, I think, a lot longer of a journey than he had in mind when he agreed to the starting time for this particular series. Oh, blimey. And by the way, this is like a good reminder on why you guys should be subscribed to the channel. Considering I think we're on schedule potentially for a 10-hour day at this rate. It really wouldn't surprise me. Oh, blimey. All right. Looks like it's time. We got him on the line. Oh, Benny boy, Benny boy, Benny boy. We've got to talk about today. First of all, big congrats on a bloody hard victory. I imagine you began this series on 0 beers. You probably finished the 4th game on 0 beers. How many drinks did you need to shot pull to get through that 5th game?
Mate, if I was feeling a bit better, I'd have been absolutely down in them. But honestly, I streamed earlier and I thought, oh, it's been a rough night. Like my throat's bad. But then once the game started, I couldn't think anymore. Like, or rather, it wasn't like autopiloting anymore. I had to think about the decisions, and I was so slow, man. And he's so freaking crazy. Like, I got to give him kudos for being absolutely wild. But yeah, apologies to the fans for some poor performances. I'm just quite sick today, so I'm just happy to make it through.
We appreciate you able to play, man. I mean, some credit to Mio, right? Like you said, I think you hit it on the head there. He's wacky. I describe him, anytime you watch him play, you can at least say he's having fun with the way he's playing, right? And I think that can be tricky for a player like you who has all this experience. You understand what the meta is. You understand what you're meant to do. But then you've got someone kind of spitting in the face of what almost seems logical. Does that make Mio maybe a more challenging opponent in these type of circumstances than someone who plays more standard?
I mean, he's definitely challenging. Like he pretty much caught me off guard absolutely every game, and always has done. I know he took a map off Beastie as well, and I'm assuming that something wild happened there too. It's just so weird when so when you're not really allowed to play your own game, and then you play the weird guy's game, and then it's like like I'm just sat in my base the whole time, and just kind of like, when's it gonna come? Like you just know something's gonna happen, but you don't really know what. So yeah, definitely problematic for sure. He was very similar in StarCraft 2, where very unorthodox timings. Like there were times in certain games where it's like, he's really pressuring me. Like, is he doing much behind this? And I look at the map and there's like no relics being taken or anything, and I'm like, this is so weird, like what's he going to transition into? Because I was like, should I stay on Archer? Like I'm kind of expecting him to go into Arbs or Archers or something, and it just didn't come. But yeah, it was ridiculous. I'm just very happy to make it through, because honestly, I felt the way that I was playing, he could have 3-0'd me. I felt so. Yeah, I thought he was playing really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting play. I think it's exciting to have these kind of fresh bloods coming in. I mean, I say fresh blood, like you said, he's competing in StarCraft. he's been I feel like on and off. He keeps coming and then going. But it's great to see like we've got extra players coming that we've foreseen. From your POV going to 2025 as a player, like how are you feeling about your performance? Like, do you think you're on the rise, right? Because I know I feel like we go through it, right, where you have these rises where it's looking really good, and then maybe the Canadians come in and kind of kick the progress. Are you feeling pretty confident going into 2025?
Right now, no, but like a few days ago, I felt like the last few weeks were going pretty well. Like I've been playing in a lot of these weeklies of yours, and I feel I've been playing totally fine. Like I definitely suck when it gets later and stuff, but yeah, I do feel that in general I'm fairly solid. This series, absolutely not. I absolutely felt that yeah, I was just going to lose the whole time. But I think I'm on the up and up and a fairly solid top 10 guy. But oh man, yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I'm gonna have to cut this one short, KP, because I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to go and
no, I
lie
was
down or
about to
something.
say you've earned a rest, mate. A tough series ahead. Obviously, Beastie never an easy opponent, so go rest up, and we look forward to seeing you in that series.
Cheers, thank you.